Hey guys, welcome back to After Hours. This week I've got April on the podcast. You might know her as online as Sally Sober on Instagram, which is the account she started before she was ready to go by a real name. And this one has been a long time in the making. We first tried to record this back in July, and for reasons that will become clear during the episode, didn't quite happen then. What you're going to hear today is actually two recordings spliced together. The first from November last year, when April was doing brilliantly, building her sober community, full of life and momentum, and the second from just recently, because when I tried to drop the episode, I was kind of trying to get in touch with her, and I noticed that her day count had dropped significantly. So I reached out, found out what had happened, and asked her to come back on and tell us. You know, I felt like she would want to have a platform to explain, not that she needed to, but to let us know what had happened, and you know that going from the sobriety to then having the relapse. I felt like we wanted to give her a platform to let us know what had happened and how she's doing. So April's story is one of the most complete and honest journeys we've had on the podcast. She grew up in London, Ontario, good family, scholarship, no trauma to speak of, and yet somehow ended up in a cycle of 4 relapses over 2 years, ending with this recent days in hospital emergency surgery. And through all of it, she's never stopped being honest, never stopped trying, and never lost her sense of humour, which is why I think she's going to be absolutely fine. And I know she's doing well, and you'll obviously hear that at the end of the episode. So this is April's full story. As always, listen for the similarities and not the differences. Here comes April. Cheers, guys. See you at the end. Welcome, April, to After Hours. How are you today? Or should we say Sally?
Yeah, I'm good. I had a sleep in today, if you can call it that, because my day's a lot different since I started my sobriety journey till now. So today I slept till 7:30 until one of my cats patted me on the face and woke me up, and that was like a sleep in for me today. So I'm feeling fresh for this interview.
I mean, you're saying, well, you're looking fresh,
Thank you.
April, but it's 7:30. It's not that late, is it? You know, I mean, that's still, what time will you normally be getting up at?
I usually get up about 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I have a pretty dialed AM routine, and I think
Yeah.
that is one of the things that saved me through all of this, because there was a time where that 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. dark period was really dark for me. So I had to take ownership of how I can change my feelings around that time of day, and it became something positive, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, in recovery, I get up, I start work at 8, but I get up at 6 and I have my coffee, and then I kind of, bimble about, and then, but like ever since getting into recovery, like I am an early clocker, I'd get up early, and it's the best part of the day, because I'd be up all night and then sleep all day and all of that, and everything's just messed up with your kind of your body clock and stuff. So I think it's healthy to get to bed fairly early. If I go past midnight, I'm like, I'm going to be rubbish tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll still get up early, but I'll only have like 6 hours sleep, and it's not enough. Maybe it's my age as well. Who knows? But I like getting up early.
Yeah.
Saturday morning, I think we slept until about 8. And that's long lie, but for other people, they're like, what?
Yeah.
We don't get up till 10, 11 o'clock on a Saturday. So
Yeah, I've dated guys where 2 seconds their head hits the pillow and they can sleep till noon, and I think, how does it feel to be one of God's favorites? Because for me, I have to have like the sound machine, the light, the little pillow, like little spray, melatonin, tea, and then I gently fall asleep like a Disney princess. And
But it's whatever works, April. It's whatever works.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and when you had your first drink.
Yeah. So I'm from London, Ontario, not London, England, the other London. We do
I
have,
think we can tell with your accent, but thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
yeah, we do have a Thames River and a couple other knockoffs there.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, born and raised London, Ontario. I didn't have trauma growing up. My family was quite lovely. I mean, there was the normal things, but my mom was like a really young mother looking back.
Hmm.
Being a very young mom of three kids while dad is at work had to be stressful because, I'm barely holding it down with two cats over here. I can't
Yeah.
imagine. But yeah, just, really good childhood. We didn't have a lot of cable TV. We weren't wealthy by any means, but
Hmm.
I actually feel fortunate of that because it really inspired me to be creative as a child, which I think a
Yeah.
lot of people who struggle with addiction are actually quite creative people. And it's just we're tapping into a very different side of our brain. So I think I was lucky
Hmm.
as a
Yeah.
kid. I have like really good memories of, the usual, my parents kicking me outside to play, my dad building forts with us. The days would go quickly and I was like sometimes drawing by myself. But yeah, just a really normal childhood and really
Yeah.
creative. And yeah, and I grew up with a brother and sister, an older sister and a younger brother, so it was nice we had each other to have adventures and play all day. So yeah, I would say that was
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
normal. um I was
So,
actually like
yeah,
really
that's
well behaved. My dad was a cop growing up, so I just always had in my mind, maybe I had a little bit of that good girl syndrome where I was like, just be a good kid and just get good grades. And as long as you don't get in trouble, like everything's fine. um,
yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
why wouldn't you
yeah.
think that? Because that's what society tells us,
Hmm.
stick in at school, do the right thing, and obviously having a father as a cop as well, you're
Yeah,
not wanting to kind of step outside the boundaries of that.
yeah,
And yeah, but then also society does say you're allowed to have a drink
yeah.
and there's no problem with drinking because everybody does it and it's
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's funny hearing other people's journeys, and some things are the very much the same, and some things are different. But I didn't have my first drink. Sorry, mom and dad, you're gonna hear the story now. Till I was about 15. But it
Yeah.
was really innocent. I had a crush on a guy who lived up the street from me, and luckily his parents always went away for business, and myself, my friend, and this guy that I had like a little bit of a 15-year-old crush on went to his house
Mhm.
after playing in the park. And we had the idea to raid the liquor cabinet, which wasn't much to be said. It was like a big bottle of Zambuca, but I was like, perfect for me because I was one of those weirdos that liked black licorice.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. So you were like, this is
Yeah.
like a candy.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, hold up here. Liquor that tastes like my favorite candy. Like, let's go. um,
And Zambuca's not really the kind of I wouldn't say it was the kind of like gateway drink. Do you know what I mean? It's not your normal kind of first time tipple, is it? It's like,
yeah,
people start with a bit of wine or cider, but you're going straight in with the hard stuff and Zambuca.
yeah,
My
I
God.
guess so. So
Yeah.
we busted into that. The three of us ended up finishing the whole bottle. And I told this story in one of my
Jeez.
meetings that it got to about 7 or 8. We were all pretty tipsy. And my friend, she was the tipsiest. We were like, oh my God, we're gonna get in trouble. She got like way too hammered. And so we took her home and like kind of left her on her back porch. And I went home to bed. And I remember waking up in the morning and she called me and she was like, oh man, how do you feel? I feel like total garbage. I'm never drinking again. And looking back, it's
Mhm.
like that was probably the first sign that I was different with my alcohol because I was like, yeah, I feel like crap, but let's go. That was fun. You know what I mean? So,
You enjoyed it. Yeah.
yeah.
And when you got home, were your parents like asleep or were you not that drunk?
Yeah,
How did you
they
kind
were
of,
asleep. I snuck off to bed and I slept and woke
yeah.
up in the morning and, just typical moody teenager as far as they knew.
Yeah, but you did it. You got away with it.
Oh,
That's the
yeah.
thing. Like you had a great night.
Yeah.
You found this new kind of like I don't know, confidence booster, make you feel great, and you got
Mhm.
away with it, you know. So it was like, well, let's do some more of this because it's a
Yeah.
bit naughty and it's fun, you
Yeah,
know.
and I was always such a
We all know
tomboy when I was young. I was never like the girl that had a boyfriend or got the guys. I was always the girl that a guy would come up to me and say, "I need to talk to you." And I'd be like, "Oh my God, this is it. He's gonna say he likes me." And he'd be like, "Does your friend
it.
like me? Like, do you think I have a chance?" And I'd be like,
Ah,
"Oh." So having that moment where I could be more myself and I could be like flirty as a 15-year-old with a guy was like another aspect of drinking, I think, for me, that
yeah,
finally I was getting male attention and feeling connected to the opposite sex. So that was exciting for me when it came to drinking too, I think. Um,
of course.
but I didn't really like I said, I always wanted to be a good kid. So that was like my little adventure. And then I think when I was like 17, I went on a camping trip and drank beer and got drunk and had a silly time with my friends. But it wasn't like, oh, let's go. And my whole high school career after that was getting wasted all the time. It was just really those two
Hmm.
incidents until I was 19 and I was of age in Ontario to start going to bars and stuff. And that's when things changed for me a lot, I'd say.
Yeah, okay. So it was just those two isolated
Mhm.
incidents, really, like that weren't anything. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So you were a good girl, you know,
Yeah.
April, growing up then.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just never wanted to get in
And do you
trouble.
think?
My brother was the little troublemaker, and I always saw my brother getting in crap, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to get in trouble." So I got the grades. I was a little introverted. I was on all the not super cool clubs like yearbook and swim team and things that weren't the
Yeah,
coolest things to be. And I had like two friends, so I was just very introverted and a little shy in school, and yeah, just the
yeah,
good
yeah.
kid, I would say.
But it's normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, everybody's different, and that's kind of how it goes. So, how would your parents? Do you think how would they have reacted if you had kind of gone off the rails a bit earlier? Do you think that might have stopped you, or do you think it did kind of preempt you to not do it?
I think they would have been surprised and there would have been a punishment just seeing how things
Yeah,
were with my brother. But yeah, I was such a daddy's girl and I was well behaved and I was also just incredibly always motivated to achieve things. My brother
yeah,
and
yeah.
sister were kind of always had boyfriends and girlfriends. My brother was on the football team, my sister was a cheerleader, and I was the weird middle child who painted my nails black and like hung it with the art kids. And like that was I was always a little bit different. Um,
Well, you were the cool one in my eyes, so yeah,
thank
I was
you.
I was that, I was the grunger kid, and
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know if I ever had black nail polish, but I definitely had long hair, like ripped clothes, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
yeah, we were just not mainstream, me and my friends, and
Yeah.
and that was kind of
There were also
how
definitely
we how
periods I
we
got picked on
started.
in school. Like, there were definitely times like every kid in adolescence where I ate my lunch in the washroom. And I remember one day coming home and crying and asking my mom, like, why am I weird? And she was like, what do you mean you're weird, honey? And I was like, I just don't fit in. And my mom said, you're not weird, you're delightfully different. And that always stuck with me. So,
Yeah,
so yeah, it's just a little
that's
bit
it.
weird.
That's it. That's such a lovely way of saying it
Yeah.
because you know what? It's like all of these kids that are like the jocks and the cheerleaders and all that. You know what? The ones that are and I know this is a sweeping statement, but the ones that are the artists, they're the ones that go on to do like more super cool things. You
Yeah.
know, it's like they might not be cool in high school, but they're cool for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the jocks and the cheerleaders. They're kind of unless they change their attitude by the time they leave high school, they're not really doing much else. That's
Mhm.
what their whole life was, and they're always chasing like, well, I was the kind of I don't know the star player on the football field or something. It's like whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. That's not going to bore you well through life. But yeah, but it's like trying to tell a kid when they're in their teen years, like you might be weird now, but that's cool. Go with that.
Yeah.
That's going to be you for the rest of your life, and you're going to be inspiring people the rest of your life. So
Yeah,
yeah.
one day you'll be like an Elon Musk or a Post Malone or you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Maybe not Elon Musk as much, but he's he's too weird. But
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure
Post
he's getting
Malone.
girls. He's got money, right? So
Well, yeah, exactly. But like people like Billie Eilish, Billie Eilish was probably mad, mad, crazy, and weird at school. But
yeah,
look at her; she's amazing.
yeah.
So what did you do after school? What well, you said you got to about 19? Had you left school at that point? And
Yeah,
Did
so
you go to university, college, or whatever?
yeah, university, and that's where things really changed. And I was really lucky that I had a couple really good teachers, and I know people have stories about teachers that really changed their life. There were a couple
Mm-hmm.
teachers that really changed my life a lot. When I was around grade 2 or 3, I really, really excelled at writing, and I had a teacher named Miss Pattison. And Miss
Mm-hmm.
Pattison told my parents that, she felt like I was gifted in writing. And so I went to a higher grade for just English class, which got me picked on even more, right? Because I was like the little girl that came to
Mm-hmm.
that older kid's class, and everyone was like, why is this random little kid in our class doing English? But she encouraged me to apply for an art school where I would do art and music and drama as well as regular school. So I was in school till like
Uh-huh.
5 or 6 p.m. instead of just the normal time, which I
Okay.
loved for a bit because, I was always really creative. But then I was getting home at like 5:30, having dinner, having way more homework than all the kids on my street. So when I got to
Yeah.
like 13, I told my parents, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to like get off school the same time as my friends and be a normal kid.
Yeah.
But then later, when I was 16 or 17, I had another teacher named Mrs. Howe, and I was in her creative writing class, and I got like a 99. And she approached me. All my friends were going off to university, and she said, you can go to school for writing. And I thought, really? I thought university is for if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a
Mm.
professor. I didn't think I could just be like, I'm good at writing, I'm going to school. So she helped me apply, and I got a full scholarship, and I ended up going to university. And as an added
Wow.
bonus, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, if you can even call it that, when I was younger. So I got my own room so that I could concentrate and study in the dorm, which was above the campus pub. So that's where April's, outgoing side came out. Molson Canadian, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday would always be giving out free beer, and the pub was below my dorm. So that's where
Yeah.
I really shone and was like, oh, like I'm meeting boys for the first time, and I have friends, and people are paying attention to me. And it was all fueled around going to those pub nights, you know what I mean? And the excitement of what was going to
Yeah.
happen and what boy I
And
was
but
going to
you
meet, and
also
like, so yeah,
you've also left home, so you
yeah.
now have this freedom.
Mhm.
So you've got your own place. You've got this freedom. You're living above a pub, which is a bit like, obviously they didn't know back then, but there is massive links between addiction and ADHD,
Yeah.
and it's like they've put the person with ADHD in the dorm above the pub. Not that they knew, but it's like in hindsight, it's like, is that the most sensible option? But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah. So did you enjoy university then? Then how did that kind
I
of
did.
pan
And,
out for you?
even then, it's like, a lot of people say alcoholism is a slow grow for some people over time. And I was definitely that person
Hmm.
that I was work hard, play hard then, I got some really cool campus jobs that helped fund my adventures. I was the tour guide for our campus, and I got a lot of tours because you got paid per tour. And because I was one of the few people who had dorm access, a lot of people wanted to have a tour of the dorm and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
I had that as a job. And then I got a job as a rep for their travel agency, doing all their on-campus events. So just lots of things that really connected me to people. So Monday to Thursday, I would work and go to school like 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. at night. And
Oh
then
wow.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I would sometimes go to Quebec and be a tour guide. And when it was like when that Thursday night hit, that was like pub night. So it was go time. So I was really good at
Yeah,
Thursday to Sunday, partying, doing my fun jobs, making the money, seeing my friends, and then Monday to Thursday, just hunkering down and doing school. And I did graduate. I got my degree. So at that point in my life, I was able to handle doing both. And, like most
yeah.
people, it's like typical university experience. You know what I mean? So even then, I wasn't like, oh, I have a drinking problem. I was like, I'm just like every one of my friends, just work hard, play hard. Right. So,
Exactly. Plus you're young. You
yeah.
can handle the hangovers. You're getting the work done. So
Mhm.
on paper, you're doing everything correct
Yeah.
and right. So yeah, why would it be a problem?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said just
So
the
what?
other day, I was like, now I work and go to the gym and I'm tired. Like, I don't even want to talk to anyone. How did I have 3 jobs, party, and
Yeah.
get a degree? Like, that will never happen again for me. Now I'm just like, oh man, I'm
Yeah.
tired from talking to people. I'm thinking.
I mean, to be fair, it does sound like a lot. I mean, I had Emily on the podcast it was before Christmas, but it was out last week, and she was saying that she did this course in England, and it was like primary school teaching course. So
Yeah,
she was doing I think she was doing like 20 hours a week at university in the first year,
yeah.
and all of her housemates were all doing media studies and something like that, and they were doing like 6 hours a week,
Wow.
like studying and
Wow.
like classes. So she basically gave up hers and went over to a different course because she was doing too many
Yeah.
hours.
Oh my
So it sounds
gosh.
like you were doing mad amounts of hours. So yeah, so well done you for kind of graduating and getting all that done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really proud looking back. But yeah, it's like now I'm trying to get into reading as a way to be present and practice my focus. And I have to be like
Yeah.
4 pages and then put the book away, come back an hour, read another 4 pages. Like my attention span is completely different now. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can imagine because I listen to books on Audible rather than
Mhm.
reading them because I know if I get home from work and start reading a book, I'll be asleep in 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's so how what job did you go into once you graduated? Did you get something in your field or?
Yeah, so I feel like, and I was thinking about this before our conversation today, how lucky I was, and maybe
Yeah.
that was something that was a hindrance for me later in life when I did have real challenges because I always had fun jobs, I always had good opportunities. I was really lucky in that way. So I got into snowboarding when I was in high school, and I started a snowboard club when I was in university because we didn't have one, which was another thing that was really cool. It also gave me more party social opportunities and connected me to tons of people. And so I got really obsessed with snowboarding, and I had this big
Mm.
dream to move to Whistler. I don't know if you know Whistler at all. It's like the ski town of Canada. Um,
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it, maybe in movies and
yeah.
stuff like that, but I've definitely heard of Whistler. Yeah.
Yeah. So every video I watched of every pro I admired, Danny Cass, just like a bunch of guys that I really liked that I thought were just the most amazing snowboarders of that era. Every one of their
Hmm.
videos was like Whistler, Whistler, Whistler. So I was like, well, I think I should check out Whistler and see what it's all about.
Hmm.
My Canadian accent coming out, I just said a boot. So
No, do you know what? It's
people
that's yours. Own it. Own it.
I wanted to point it out before anyone else did, I guess. But
You're
yeah,
Canadian, April. Go with it.
but yeah, so I tell someone this story at the time. Greyhound had this deal where you could go from anywhere to anywhere on the bus.
Oh
As long
yeah.
as you booked the ticket like a month out, it was like 120 Canadian. And when I looked at
Yeah.
flying to bring all of the things I was going to need to move to Whistler was going to be expensive. So I thought, well, I've never seen Canada, and the bus had no restrictions on bags. So I showed up in London, Ontario with like my 2 hockey bags full of all my stuff and got on the
Hmm.
bus and took it all the way across Canada. And the bus ended in Whistler. Got off the bus and started harassing this bakery that I found, and that was my first job, was working at a bakery in the mornings in Whistler. And
Wow.
1 year turned
Did you
into
have a
5 years.
place?
So yeah.
Did you have a place all sorted out before you got there, or did you just go in your bags
Yeah,
and?
I was lucky that it was low season, so you could do staff
Hmm.
housing even if you weren't staff for the mountain. And that was a
Okay.
blessing too, that I came that time of year because I met other people that were more integrated in Whistler culture, I guess you could say, because you get the massive
Yeah. Yeah.
Aussies that come right before snow season and are just there to party and work. But I was
Yeah.
lucky
Yeah.
that I came early in September before there was snow. And even though it was much harder to find a job, I met people who lived there year round. And I think that was
Yeah.
a blessing for me because I ended up connecting with people who were professional snowboarders or ski patrollers or people that really had a passion for the industry and were really integrated in it year round. So that was
Yeah. Yeah.
really cool. But once again, another huge party culture living in a ski town.
Hmm.
So
Of course,
Yeah.
après ski all the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had staff night at the bottom of the hill, and pitchers were $8. And I was telling someone I would always get 2 pitchers being like, this is for my friends. But April would just be like walking around with my 2 pitchers. Like $8 for pitcher beer would never happen now. This is my age showing.
Yeah. And you're just walking around with two of them. That's it. You're set for the night.
Yeah. Once again, I had like
Yeah.
sloppy drunk times, of course, but like in that age, the next day you kind of laugh about it. You're like, oh, I was an idiot. That was fun. Like, you're not like, it's not an age where it's embarrassing to be that kind of drunk. It's kind of like cute and funny, and it's an adventure.
Of course it is.
So,
But also everyone's doing it, and it's not like you're doing it every night, and it's like, there's other people that are doing it some nights, and you're going home and you're having a really good night, you
yeah.
remember everything, no blackout. Yeah, but also you're in Whistler. Sounds like it's a total party town, especially when the ski season starts.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's a tourist place.
Yeah. And once again, I stuck to that work hard, play hard kind of vibe. My shifts were 10 hours. So I was either getting up early to snowboard, or I was getting up early to snowboard. No, I was getting up early to work at like 5 a.m. And that was Monday to Thursday. And then the same schedule I had for university, the weekends I'd just be off riding and partying. So even then it wasn't like I was waking up and drinking. I was able to maintain like a party life balance, I guess. So, yeah.
And were you getting much snowboarding in as well?
Yeah, I was lucky that at that time they had night riding Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and my boss really liked me. So I said like, hey, can I have a few days where I work and I can have snowboard breaks? And then I had days where I could go night riding. So I was snowboarding like 6 days a week. And I was really passionate. Like there was a point that I thought I really wanted to be pro and compete in half pipe. But then I started to get stupid injuries, and that kind of changed things for me. So
right. And sorry, I didn't realize that riding was this has shown my ignorance. I didn't realize riding was the name for snowboarding as well. So yeah, but that's awesome. So how long did you stay up there in the mountain for?
I was only supposed to do 1 season, but it turned into like 5-6 years. I just had it so good. I had a slopeside accommodation, and because I worked for staff housing as like an advisor, I had my own place, or sometimes I had one roommate, whereas most people had like 3 roommates and bunk beds. So I had a cute place. It was only like 600 Canadian a month, which is unheard of in Whistler now. Now you'd be spending like $2,000 to share a room with like 6 Aussies. But back then it was only like 500-600. I was living slopeside. Because I had established myself in low season, I had friends that stayed year round. I managed to pay down my like $24,000 in university debt when I was there, because I was just like, I had that snowboard pass, and all I was doing was riding every day, having $8 pitchers at staff night. And so it was really like low cost for me. I did dabble in other things. I was just a drinker. So I would see some friends that needed 3 jobs and stopped snowboarding because they got so sucked into the party aspect. But for me, I was still like Monday to Thursday, I snowboard. The rest of the weekend, I did nights riding and would drink, and it was still pretty balanced. I was still able to just like do it all.
It sounds like you've still got kind of like a grip on it all, and you're just having fun, and you're what, in your mid 20s at this point, mid to late 20s?
It was like 23 to 27. It was like when I graduated university, and then I was there like 5-6 years, so 23 to 27 years old.
Yeah. And then what brought you back down from the mountain then?
I just started to get really silly injuries, and this was the period
that
Gwen Stefani was huge. So I auditioned and sang for a ska band in Vancouver and got a singing role. And so I was commuting on days off from Whistler to come for band practice. And sometimes I'd come down and, the drummer would be sick, and I'd be like, great, I came all the way down here and now I'm not even having practice. And so then I started.
And what are we talking? Sorry, what are we talking? How long's the commute from Whistler to
2.5 hours? But it's still a long day. Like you still had to get to the bus stop, take the bus, commute to the band studio, have it sometimes not be worth it. Then the last bus home without it being too late. So, because I didn't have a car, so I was commuting. So it was still a lot to just go for this band practice. And
of course. I mean, I say that because, like,
Yeah.
you know, you live in Canada, which is
Mhm.
vast and huge,
Yeah.
and it's on my list to get to places. But
Mhm.
like the UK, if you're driving 2.5 hours on a bus or a car, it's half the freaking country.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, nobody goes that far to kind of commute for band
Mhm.
practice. But yeah, good on you for doing that. But I understand that it's a long way. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
especially because some of the guys didn't take it as seriously as me, and some of them were dads and had kids, so they'd be like, "Oof, sorry, like the wife wants me to stay home tonight," and I was like, "I am gonna be
Mhm.
famous," like so the
Well, yeah, of course. This is
enthusiasm
your
was
dream.
different,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
so yeah, so I had to have a little talk with myself where I was like, okay, I've been here 5 years. Some of my friends had left Whistler now. Now I was having to have different Australian boyfriends that would leave. I kept hurting myself snowboarding. And I thought, I'm really passionate about music, and it's not like I'm going to be a professional snowboarder. So I should just move to Vancouver and pursue a new dream. So
Hmm.
I knew this really sweet girl who was Japanese that I had worked bussing tables with in Whistler, and she said, "Why don't you just come down and sleep in my room? I'll be away. You can borrow my bike and you can try to apply for jobs." So that's what I did. And I ended up getting a job in the travel industry and yeah, and moved to Vancouver. Had one roommate and just yeah, once again was still in that lifestyle. I'm in a band now, you know what I mean? And I'm also
Yeah.
in sales. So those are two other atmospheres where I was
Oh,
in drinking situations, you know, where it was just
yeah.
like work hard,
Sales
play hard.
definitely.
So yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, sales, yeah, definitely. It's like a money driven
Mhm.
party atmosphere. When I worked in sales, it was like, you know, we had things called Champagne Friday, you know, it
Mhm.
was like ring the bell, get a beer out, all of that kind of stuff. And then you've got the band, rock and roll. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. I mean, I know you're saying that some of the band members were like, you know, fathers or you know, and kind of settled down a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's still got that atmosphere. You're still going out and partying, and you're
Mhm.
living in a huge city. So
Yeah.
yeah. So how did that kind of develop with your drinking then?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say the sales was a big thing. It was like if you had a good day of sales where you were the top salesperson because they were always listing
Hmm.
people's stats and you were getting shout outs if you had a good day of sales. And, you know, my managers were incentivized by my sales. So if I had a good day of sales, they would come back to the store and be like, here's a bottle of wine. Like, you killed it today. And everyone would have wine at the store after work. And then same thing, if you had like a crappy customer, like all of us would be like, oh, let's go to the pub. This was such a crap day. So there was always a reason to drink. And it's funny, in one of my meetings when I told this story, um, another guy said, I really related to your story, I was in sales. And he said, we had like a secret machine where everyone knew that like there was booze in there. And he was like, we were putting it in the coffee and it was just like, you know, sales. Like, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's,
Irish coffees.
yeah, go ahead.
Irish coffees.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You couldn't have a
yeah.
coffee without it. But then, yeah, also
Well,
singing in a
exactly.
band, that was another thing where, you know, I was getting male attention that I had never gotten when I was younger. So that was another thing that I was staying after, you know, to
Hmm.
party and meet guys and just like, you know, it's funny because so many people that I've talked to through AA and stuff, they blossomed young, they discovered booze and had their party days young. But for me, I was a little bit of
Hmm.
a late bloomer. So I think I am still like immature in some ways because the experiences that a lot of my friends had when they were 13 to 16, I wasn't having till my mid to late 20s, you know? So,
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's different for everyone, really, and it's kind of it doesn't like whether it becomes a problem doesn't really discriminate on at what age. You know, I think that even though I started really young and it became a problem quite
mhm.
young, I was still immature up until I was 40 when I got sober because my brain hadn't developed
Yeah.
because I hadn't let it because I'd been drinking that whole time. I didn't know how to socialize without it
Oh, yeah.
because I'd been doing it since I was 14. So it's kind of, you know, it swings and roundabouts. But how did you think that I mean, it sounds like you were just kind of doing what your kind of colleagues and your bandmates were
Yeah.
doing, did you think at this point that it was starting to become an issue, or was it even becoming an issue at this
I
point?
think it was just like liquid courage, you know. I was naturally that shy
Yeah,
girl that was kind of dorky and
yeah.
awkward and didn't fit in and had my two friends. And the more I was in drinking situations, like a lot of people say, I felt confident. I was getting attention from boys. I started to become
Hmm.
this like party girl, you know, because then the next step was I had a friend who was an acoustic Sarah Glaucony kind of acoustic guitar musician.
Nice. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
at this point in my life, I was living with someone, but I was going through kind of an unhealthy breakup where we were living together, but he worked nights and I worked days and we were just like avoiding each other. So she asked me,
Ships in the night. Yeah,
yeah, so she
yeah.
asked me, she's like, oh, do you want to work door at one of my events? And I was like, yeah, I don't want to be home. And so I was working door at her event. And then after her show, there was a DJ show. And the guys putting on the DJ show were like, oh my gosh, we don't have a door girl and you're super outgoing, but you don't take crap from people. And you're not getting all, I wasn't getting all, part of my language, effed up. So I was good with money
Hmm.
and I wasn't like, you know, I was reliable. So they asked me to work door for their show. And that's when I opened to a whole other world of the EDM DJ lifestyle. And I became a nightclub promoter as well as being in sales. And I think that's where things really took a direction because once again, I was getting attention that I wasn't used to. I was
Yeah,
connecting to people that I deemed as cool, I guess. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I, yeah, I was in a lot of situations where people were drinking and partying, like going to a lot of shows I was promoting that maybe I would have never gone out that night, but I was making money and connections, so I would go. So,
Yeah, and obviously people are loving you because not well, obviously because you're a lovely person, but
mhm.
also you've got the kind of keys to the kingdom because you're promoting these nights, you're helping put these nights on. So it's like, well, let's get in with April because April can get us into these events and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're just doing it for that. It's just you're a connector. So obviously you're being very social and you're meeting
Mhm.
loads of different people that way. And it's like, well, this is cool. This is a great life. I love it,
No,
you
it's
know?
true. It was funny because this just shows I wasn't like that level of drinker yet. I really liked beer and
Hmm.
wine. I was always a bit of a wino, to be honest. Like it started with beer in university and then wine was almost more of a relaxing drug type feel for me and I went to wine. But I did have a liquor
Hmm.
cabinet with tons of liquor in there from all the trips I did. I brought back like special liqueurs and stuff from various trips I went on. So when I started to become a nightclub promoter, people knew I had this bar at my house, and my house became the after party spot after the
Hmm.
club closed. And that was another opportunity for me to schmooze and meet people. And there would be nights where I decided not to go out, and my phone would be blowing up, or some people would be knocking on my door because they knew I had that bar and they knew my spot was the after party spot. So yeah, so it was
Yeah.
good to feel like I think cool and wanted
Yeah, yeah.
and
You're one of the cool
integrated in
kids
something
now.
I admired, which was creative individuals, musicians. So all of that, right?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. You're one of the cool kids now. And
Yeah.
I guess
Mhm.
those nights where you just wanted a night off, but it's like you feel this kind of pull and it's like you're needed, you're wanted,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my God. And I know what you're like. I know what it's like when I was like in my 20s and 30s, early 30s. Like I worked in bars and things like that. So I would be going out if I wasn't working to other night spots around the town.
Yeah.
So like in my 20s and 30s, I was never I never really had a night in, and if I did have a night off, it was like, "Oh my god, what am I gonna do? I'm bored now. I
Mhm.
need to go out." So yeah, I know
Yeah.
exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
But that whole scene is quite like I couldn't imagine going back to that scene and being
Mhm.
sober in it. Now I'm sure there are people doing it, but
Yeah.
for me back in the days, it was like, no, I need to be getting on it if I'm going to be hanging about with all this kind of DJs and things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still go out once in a while, and it's funny that you say that because I went out last Saturday, but it got to 1:30 and I was doing like the two-step, like do like in the corner.
Yeah.
And I have friends that are like, yeah. And then they message me at 4 a.m. like, where did you go? Because I like party ghost now. And I was like, gone are the days of staying up with sunrise. Like, that does not sound appealing to me at all. So I still like make
No.
appearances once in a while, and I still appreciate the music. But yeah, gone are the days that I'm just like the last one on the dance floor. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's more of an age thing with me, but it's like, yeah. Do you know what? It was a time and a place, and I loved it, and I loved waiting for the sun to come up. We'd
Yeah.
find a little place in the hill or something, overlooking the water or wherever we were, and yeah, just watching the sun come up, and it was like we had a good weekend, you know. And it
Yeah.
was like feeling like absolute crap within the next few hours, but yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, it was
So, did
almost like
you?
you bragged. Like if you were the one that stayed up latest, it was like that was a badge of honor. It was like, oh, you stayed up till 5, I
Oh,
stayed up till 6, man. So
of course, of course. Like if there was people in the party that were passed out on the sofa, they weren't going to feel like crap the next day. But we were like, no, we stayed up, man. We did it hardcore. Like we're the legends here. You know, we're heroes. And it was like,
100%.
and I still believe that, you know, because we were legends, we were heroes. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
but
it's
but I
funny
couldn't do it
like getting
anymore.
into the sobriety community because everyone's journey is different, and I respect and don't judge anyone, but I do see people who
Hmm.
post that they're like, I wish I'd never discovered alcohol. It's poison. And I was like, honestly, I had a pretty good time. I just wish I'd stopped sooner. Like, maybe around my
Yeah,
mid 30s.
yeah.
That probably should have been the cutoff. Like, that's where things shifted for me and started to be less cool, So,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like that's the thing. Like, obviously, I'm finding out more now about it, and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize it was a poison. I didn't realize how bad it was. But like, there's no regrets from my camp. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm not saying that everyone should go out and do what I did or what you did, but
Yeah.
like, I don't have any regrets. I'm not saying I wished I'd stopped sooner because I wouldn't be who I am
Yeah.
today. You know,
Yeah. And
it's the way
funnily
it is.
enough, and maybe this is jumping ahead in my story, but a lot of this closest friendships I have now are people that I met in
Yeah,
that time in my life and are now also on a sober journey as well. So it's pretty like full
yeah.
circle and cool if you can have that. Not everyone can. Like some people have to cut off friends to become sober, but I
Mhm.
am really blessed that the friends I partied with are now like going to yoga with me and going for walks and stuff. So,
Yeah. But also, I mean, I hear what you're saying there exactly, and I think that that's so great that a lot of your friends are going sober as well. But I
mhm,
think Brandon Novak, it might have even been Steve-O, it was one of them two, and they said, like, I'm so glad that I had to give this up, that I'm so
mhm,
glad that I was so alcoholic and so addicted
yeah.
that I had to give it up because he said, like, if I hadn't had to, I would have probably just been slowly doing this until
Mhm,
I was like 60, 70. Don't think I'd have made 80. Do you know what I mean? He was like, I'm glad I had to
mhm,
make a draw a line in the sand and
mhm,
said no more because I did it so hard. Because now I get to live this freedom that I'm away from it and I get to live this pure and kind of clean life now. And
mhm,
he's like, and I don't, I like, I just don't miss he's like, I don't have any regrets, but I don't miss it now because I'm now living this way. And he was like, the way he was trying to say it was like, I'm so glad that his hand was forced that he
mhm.
had to give up. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree with that. I
Yeah,
totally do.
I saw a bit
Because,
of that interview or one of those, and he made another really good point that there are lots of people that are drinkers to a point that's maybe not
mhm,
healthy, but it never gets bad enough to change. And I
yeah,
read a lot that that's the most dangerous kind of drinker is the kind that it's a slow grow and then suddenly you have liver damage or something really detrimental that maybe it just didn't
yeah,
get bad enough for you to get clean and sober. So yeah, in a lot of ways, I'm grateful that I had to hit a really painful place to like pull my head out of my butt,
yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah,
So
because it is. I mean, it is a slow killer. It's linked to 7 types of cancers, all of that stuff.
oh
And it's
yeah,
like, you know what? Like people that are just drinking steadily into their middle age and into their early old age, it's not doing them any good. They're just going to
yeah,
be kind of sluggish and lethargic. And it's like, do you know what I mean? Look at us. We're like full of life
mhm,
and we're loving life, and that's what it is.
yeah,
So where did it kind of you see you got into this kind of EDM music, and
mhm.
that's where it kind of started a shift. So what
Yeah,
kind of
being a
happened there?
promoter, I was going out till like 2 a.m. and then coming into work at like 8 a.m. I'm in two environments where it's that work hard, play hard, being a nightclub promoter and then coming in, working in sales in the travel industry. And finally, my manager sat me down and was like, are you going to be like this party girl? Or are you going to be an agent? What's the thing here? Because like you're coming in at like 40%. Like this is not the girl we hired. And
Yeah.
so I had to make the tough call and step away from the, party promoting industry. But
Hmm.
I was still in a career that was work hard, play hard. I remember
Yeah,
one of our
exactly. It's kind of like,
conferences was an all inclusive and we ran out of booze the first night and they had to go to a nearby hotel. So it was like the Wolf of Wall Street for people in travel, I would say. So
yeah.
yeah, like we got incentivized with drinking and parties. So still I was in an environment that there was a lot of drinking. I would say where it really became apparent, like a lot of people, was COVID for me because
Hmm.
I was in a really unhealthy relationship with someone who also had a drinking dependency. And I wasn't working, which was my whole identity till that point and kept me busy, at least in the daytime. So I don't know what it was like for you guys over there, but I remember looking back how crazy it was that the liquor stores decided to extend their hours for senior citizens. And it's like, oh yeah, because the seniors need to get in there and get the booze early. But that's what the government Canada said. Oh, like we need an earlier time so senior citizens aren't bombarded. So the liquor stores went from being open till 9 a.m. at 7 a.m. And, people were posting on TikToks, like drinking wine from home. And so it
Yeah.
seemed socially acceptable, but my tolerance started to get really high then and it got really out of control, like during COVID. That's where things changed for sure.
So were you still working during COVID, or were you working from home like a
No,
lot of
I got laid
people,
off,
or
which was also
you got laid
dangerous.
off?
And because I got laid off, I was given a government subsidy,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I got really smart with investing it in stocks. The government's
Right.
not going to call
Okay.
me and be like, wait a minute, that's what you were doing. We want. um,
Well, but the thing is, it's your money. You can do
yeah.
what you want. I don't think the
Yeah.
government really
So
cares. So yeah.
I worked hard my whole life. Like I'd had a job since I was 13, delivering papers, babysitting. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? Consider this a mini retirement. I've worked my butt off. I
Absolutely.
deserve this money. And, there's a beach in Vancouver here. Some people may know it, Wreck Beach. It's a bit of a party beach. It's one of the nicest beaches. But I was just going down there because it was open during COVID. It was the only place you could socialize. So I was going down there and
Hmm.
everyone's drinking and talking politics. And that's when things got, I would say, pretty out of control because I was with a partner who was also a heavy drinker. So it kind of really normalized things for me. Being around
Hmm.
someone who's not like, you're worrying and is like, yeah, let's go to the liquor store. It's open at 7 a.m. Let's do this. Like that, it was just making it feel even more normal. And then my tolerance was getting higher and higher. And that's where I was starting to like black out to sleep and then getting
Hmm.
up with crazy anxiety like 5, 6 in the morning. And the only thing that made it go away was to drink more. You know what I mean? So that's the first time I
Yeah.
was in a loop of
And
needing
what was that?
alcohol to feel normal. And then it would wear off and then I would feel worse. And it was like that was the first time I experienced that kind of cycle.
And so did that start like at what point would you say the earliest was you were drinking in the day? Was it first thing when you woke up, or?
To be honest, like probably 5, yeah, probably like 5 in the morning. And
Oh right,
we always
okay.
had enough alcohol that we could drink anytime, right? It was COVID. I remember when things
Yeah.
first started shutting down, and maybe this is where the dependency really comes through, is our biggest concern was that the liquor stores would close and we stocked up on more booze than food, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it was like, oh, what if the liquor stores close? And looking back, I'm like, that should have been the indication that it wasn't like the world might end, I might die. It was like, oh my God, what if there's no alcohol? Like, let's go. Like, so yeah.
Like I was telling someone this morning in the podcast, I was saying, because I got sober in COVID, like the
Mhm.
first, so I was just kind of going through hell. I ended up in
Mhm.
rehab in March 2020, and like literally 2 days after I went into rehab, they went into the first lockdown in the UK.
Yep.
So it was kind of like, what? And looking back, like, I don't know how I would have coped if I'd still been with my ex at that point, because she was obviously saying, you've got a problem, you need to do
Mhm.
something about this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, yeah. So I ended up leaving her. And like, if I was still in that situation and then we went into lockdown, I
Mhm.
don't know how I would have been able to get booze in the house and been able to drink
Yeah.
it, you know, because my whole pattern at that point before I left her was they would go to work and school. I was unemployed at that point. So then I would go to the shop, get my booze, and then because I needed it first thing in the morning. If there was no
Yeah.
booze in the house that I'd hidden away, I would be straight on it and I would be up to the petrol station to get it. So yeah, I don't know how I would have coped through COVID. But
Yeah.
obviously you had a partner that was kind of doing the same as you. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
But
no
it was really
judgment.
unhealthy and tumultuous because we were stuck with each other and we would have non-sober arguments. So it was just unhealthy in so many ways. And I've been lucky to
Mm-hmm.
make peace with that person now. And actually, that person has become sober as well. I saw them in a meeting and we reconnected. But yeah, during that time, it was nuts because it was like we were drinking together. It was like, whatever, the world's going to end. Who cares? And like, and then we were having these alcohol fueled, tumultuous arguments where, we would explode. He would leave. I'd wake up feeling shame the next day, being like, I don't remember what it was. It must have been my fault because it must be my fault. And that was like a whole messy situation that just made my relationship with alcohol become unhealthy because now I was using alcohol to cope with difficult feelings. Like it was no longer like a fun social thing for me. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like I feel crappy. And when I drink, I don't care. I don't feel crappy. So I'll just keep drinking because I don't want to deal with these feelings. So,
Well, it sounds like at that point you're kind of getting into withdrawal territory anyway. You know,
hmm
if you're drinking to kind of make yourself feel better,
hmm
yeah, there's the hair of the dog that sorts out a hangover, but then
hmm
there's like the anxiety, the fear, all of these things that come with withdrawal, the sweats, the shakes, the
hmm
TTs. You know, that if you're drinking to stave off that, which I was, and it sounds like
hmm
you were doing, that's the danger place. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean? Because you
100%.
can't just cold turkey stop. And
hmm
I mean, I have done that. Very dangerous. I've had seizures. So,
hmm
you know, I obviously don't recommend anyone if they're in that situation to just, you know, making a definite stop on it.
Yeah.
But how long did that go on for with you and that
So
partner?
I would say COVID, it was off and on. There was never a point, I would say, to be honest, I got sober because I wasn't working for 2 years. I was really good at investing
Yeah.
my money. I was having like this mini holiday where I was going to the beach every day with someone I was dating. So it was probably 2 years of like very unhealthy. And then things started to open up and I was like, I kind of woke up and that person and I broke up. He was like, oh, things are open now. And he kind of went off and made other connections. And
Mhm.
I started struggling with depression for the first time as a result of coming off of alcohol and dealing with I guess you would say the mental damage I had done because really does
Yeah,
damage your frontal lobe.
of course it does.
So from there, I would say alcohol became a way to cope with difficult feelings. And it wasn't like I
Hmm.
was drinking every day, like I was in COVID, but anytime I had any kind of conflict with a partner, alcohol seemed to solve the feelings that I didn't want to deal with.
Hmm.
So I ended up in another relationship less than 3 weeks after that one ended. And that was another unhealthy relationship. It's like they say, like you attract like energy, right? So I came out of that one relationship out of COVID and I was in like a low place. And so inevitably I attracted another partner who maybe wasn't the best fit for me. And
Hmm.
unhealthy patterns just continued from there. I worked random jobs, but I started to not be able to give my 100%. And when I came home, there was conflict. And so every time there was
Yeah.
conflict, I would go to the park and have a drink and be like, screw you, like you're a jerk. Like I'm going to go drink and not deal with this. So that's where
I'll
things
show
started to
you.
change. Yeah, it was like, oh, like we're breaking up. I'm going to have a drink. You know what I mean? And that was like my
Yeah,
mentality.
yeah, yeah,
And I would go
yeah.
sit on the park bench and listen to music and have a few drinks. And that was my way of coping with like conflict because that's what I had learned in that first relationship in COVID. And that pattern continued. And that's where my relationship with alcohol just completely changed. So,
And at that point, April, did you think that like this is not healthy, this is not where I want to be, or were you just like kind of, because the weird thing with alcohol and alcoholism, if you want to call it that, for me,
Mhm.
like I knew for definite there was a problem,
Mhm.
but at that point I didn't want to fix it because I just thought, well, this is who I am and I
Yeah.
enjoy, I was so depressed and my life was so
Mhm.
shitty and in tatters, but I was like, this is just who I am, and
Yeah.
I'm dealing with it. I'm morose, and I'm in this melancholic state. And yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm a tortured artist and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, to hell with everyone else. And it was like, but looking back, I was absolutely miserable, you
Yeah.
know. But I didn't. I knew there was an issue, but I didn't. I wasn't ready to do anything about it at that
Yeah.
point. Did you think I need to do
Um,
something, or were you just kind of happy enough going along with
I
it?
think I was definitely in denial, and I don't want to blame. I think a part of my process that I'm really proud about is taking ownership of my behavior and forgiving a lot of my choices. But
Hmm.
in that moment, you know, once again, socially, it was just so acceptable to be the girl who was going through a breakup and having wine with my friends. And obviously, looking back,
Yeah.
I was like, I was not having wine with my friends. I was having wine alone on a
Yeah.
bench, listening to sad music, being angry at my partner. But it was still like in
Yeah.
my mind, socially acceptable enough that, you see on every rom-com, like some girl having a breakup and then sitting on a couch having wine with her friends talking about what a jerk he is and how you're better off. And so that kind of normalized my behavior in my head, that I was like, well, I'm just
Hmm.
coping with it the way any girl would cope with a breakup. But the breakup was constant. It was like, and so I was constantly drinking and it was just another loop. So
And do you think the breakups were anything to do with the excessive drinking or?
yes and no. In many ways, yes and
Yeah.
no, because I look back and there's a lot of things that me before that time would never have tolerated. But I think I
Mm,
had such low self-worth at that point that I thought, well, I'm just gonna fix it. We're gonna get through this and we're gonna be stronger than ever. And I told myself a lot of lies that just I tolerated. And not to say I was any saint, like I was definitely the drinking. Um, Definitely the drinking affected it as well because I couldn't have calm conversations by the time I got home. I couldn't talk about things and process my emotions rationally. But
mhm.
on the other side of things, there was a lot of unkind behavior, I feel, that I wouldn't have tolerated if I had had better self-worth. So those two things, right?
And you know what? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for
Mhm.
me, no offense to my exes, but I was definitely with a lot of the wrong people because
Mhm.
of my circumstances and my life choices.
Mhm.
Looking back, yeah, we had some great times and whatnot, but definitely not like the right person for me at the right time,
Mhm.
if that makes sense,
Yeah, no,
and it
that's how I
was like,
feel. And maybe it's a part of my journey, but I've made peace and found moments where I still have love for those people. I think, there's people in the world that have never even been in love once. And how lucky am I that I've gotten to
yeah,
love people even if there was pain. But
of course.
but yeah, I do think I tolerated some things that sober me wouldn't have because I just had such low self-worth and also was drinking a lot at home and wasn't in situations where I was meeting other people to realize that there was other things out there. I was just comfortable with my pain, comfortable with the pain of my relationship, comfortable with being a victim, all of those things. But yeah,
Yeah.
I looking back, I also like to believe that people can change. So I don't look
Hmm.
back on those partners and say, well, that's just who they are forever. Because when I talk about things now, I feel like I'm talking about another person and I'm appreciative of what I did experience. But I feel like I've changed so much that I'd like to believe that those people can change. And, that was just a moment that we experienced together, I guess.
I think, do you know what? If people don't change throughout their life, then there's
Mhm.
something wrong with them. I think we
Mhm.
all need to change. We all grow. We all get mature. We all go through life experiences that make us into different people,
Mhm.
and hopefully they make us better. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, if you're the same person as you were when you left high school, it's like, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
something needs to something needs to be looked at there. So what point did you like hit a rock bottom, or was it like kind of,
Mm,
lots of little things that happened that made you think, I need to do something?
yeah, I would say the last 4 years till now was where things got really bad. It was a combination of things. Like I wasn't enjoying the jobs I was having. So I felt a lack of purpose, which people say is another thing that leads you to drinking if you don't have any purpose or value in yourself. When
Hmm.
I first got sober, one of the activities I use that I encourage other people is just to write down every time you want to drink and write down what your feeling is. And honestly, there were two things that came up for me, and that was loneliness and boredom. Every time I wanted a
Yeah.
drink, I was either lonely or bored. Like drinking was the easiest thing, to have wine after work in front of the TV and watch Housewives. And not to
Hmm.
mention there were activities like that that I started to associate with drinking.
Hmm.
So loneliness, boredom, conflict with my partner, I was doing that on loop. My partner and I broke up and got back together several times. And then finally things ended between him and I. And that's where things got really dark, I would say, because I had become accustomed to using alcohol to deal with my pain. And even though I knew that that breakup was the best thing looking back, and that if I can't imagine what my life would be if I continued to be in that situation, that's where the real pain and the real darkness came in, because I had no one to blame anymore. I was living alone. I was alone. Had to be alone with my thoughts, alone with my
Hmm.
feelings, and also realizing how codependent I was. I wasn't used to sleeping by myself. So
Hmm.
that's where things got really bad. I was working, but every night I was drinking wine to help fall asleep. But my
Hmm.
tolerance was getting higher, and I was waking up at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. So really, I wasn't sleeping. I was blacking out and waking up
Yeah.
and then not
Yeah.
giving my 100%. And that's where things got really dark and really, really bad. And that's where my friends and family started to see a change in me, and they started to get really worried. Like they wouldn't hear from me for months. When they did, it would be like posts on social, just pretending everything's okay. So people started to see the patterns, and people started to be like, we're concerned. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
And what kind of, was there a kind of point where obviously your family's worried about
yeah,
you? I guess you've started to kind of notice that things are going a bit irie. So it's
yeah,
kind of like, did it get to a kind of crux point, or was it just?
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
One of my family members came out to visit and realized I wasn't okay. That I'd been living this lifestyle where I'd been like, I wasn't working again. I got laid off. And once again, that was dangerous because I lived near a beach and I was lonely. And it was the easiest thing to go down and make beach friends. I'm a young
Hmm.
woman. I go down, I have a 6 pack, and some dudes chat me up, and I'd spend the day drinking with them. And all of a sudden, I wouldn't feel sad and I'd forget. And sometimes
Yeah.
because I wasn't working, I'd meet them the next day and the next day, and just things got really out of control. So a family member came here and visited me, and they were like, what the heck? This is what you've been doing. This is not like what you've been portraying online that your life is. And so that person convinced me to go back to Ontario with them, where my family was. And
Hmm.
that's when things changed. That's when I had to get better, because
Hmm.
that was the first time. Sorry, this is where I get a little emotional.
No,
That
sorry. You take your time.
that was the first time that I had to face the fact that my decisions were selfish and they were affecting people I love. And
Yeah.
I just knew, I was like, I'm not going to get this support again. Like, my friends were worried about me and they were supporting me. My family was worried about me. And I was like, this is it. I was like, I know people that whose family members won't talk to them because they couldn't handle it anymore. And I knew that
Yeah.
this was where things had to change, because I wasn't going to have this the next time. So,
And that family member that came through
mhm,
to Vancouver,
yeah,
was that a surprise visit? Was that a surprise visit?
no,
Did they tell
No,
you they
it
were
was
coming?
planned, and that was like the saddest thing was that I just was so in my own world and so selfish that I just lost track of the time. And before I knew it, it was like, oh yeah, I'm still coming tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. And, I tried to
Yeah.
pull it together, but, it's like you say, you can't just be on a 2-week
No,
bender and then just stop,
if
right?
you could
So,
just if you could just snap out of it and make everything look like it was all hunky dory,
yeah,
then you wouldn't be having a problem, would you? So
yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it was a blessing in the end because, to be honest, I feel
yeah,
like I'm now closer than ever to the people that rallied around me because we
yeah.
actually had real conversations about real things, both in their lives and in my lives. Like, a lot of people have come forward now and said, actually, I had a problem too, or I've gone to friends' houses and seen an A book on their wall and been like, oh, and they were like, oh yeah, I was in the program for 9 months. So, um,
Mhm,
everything is a blessing, and I
mhm.
know that's the cliche thing to say, but it really brought me like a life I never thought I could have, where if I just kind of coasted and drank and hit it and had weekend benders, and then I wouldn't have all that I have now. So it was meant to be. So
Yeah, but think about what you just said there,
yeah.
April. Like, having these weekend benders and hiding it and doing this. It's
Hmm.
exhausting.
Hmm.
It's exhausting trying to keep
Hmm.
that up false pretense to like family, friends, loved ones. How is that fun in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
It's not. It's like it's this living this fake life
Hmm.
where actually, you know what, living this life is much easier.
Yeah.
So how did you get in? Did you get yourself into a program with AA, or
Yeah.
how was
So
that?
my
And
family took me to a detox center so I could detox
yeah,
safely. And people
yeah.
say that you have like a spiritual experience, and I definitely did.
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
that third night, uh, the nurse on duty would only let me have melatonin, and I had to, and I feel like in hindsight, they did it on purpose to like have me have that moment because physically, mentally, emotionally, I felt so terrible. I remember sleeping maybe 1.5 hours at night and laying in bed, look at the ceiling, and like I still struggle with the religious aspect of AA, I'm gonna be honest, but I definitely had a moment
Yeah.
where I was like, please, I will do anything to not feel this way or be here again. Like anything, I will do anything. And that's
Mhm.
and that's where things changed for me. The next day I woke up and I felt so much better, and all the nurses were like, this is the best you've looked since you've gotten here. And
Mhm.
they were like, I think you're ready to go home. And my family was meant to come pick me up at noon that day, and the one of the facilitators said, we're having kind of a little AA tonight, and I think that you should attend. And
Mhm.
up until that point, I was still very anti. The year before, I'd been 127 days sober on my own. So in my head, I was still really
Mhm.
stubborn and thought, I've done this before, I can do this again. Isn't AA super religious? And people are just going to tell their sob stories. Like, I had a very negative mindset about the whole thing. And they
Mhm.
were like, just stay. Like, what's it going to hurt? Like, you've already been here 4 or 5 days. Like, just stay and talk to these guys. So these two like big biker type guys came in, and they were named like Ted and Roland or something. And
Yeah.
they said, this isn't really what a meeting would be. We're just here to talk to you about how it's helped us. And they convinced me, they said, even if you don't believe it or believe in it, you will meet people who understand you. They said, let me
Yeah.
guess, your friends and family are over it. You've
Mhm.
probably heard, why can't you just stop? I can stop, which I had heard many times. And they were like, and you might be able to get a sponsor, which I think you need. So that's where I
Mhm.
was like, okay, Roland and Ted, I'll try AA. You know what I mean? And I thought I owed it to
Yeah.
my family and friends after what I put them through to at least try. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then I started going to AA, and that was another life-changing thing for me. So,
And I think, I did AA, but
mhm,
my main home group was NA. And do you know what? Drugs were never a major problem for me, but
mhm,
because alcohol is a drug, I was
mhm,
accepted, and it was a small group. And yeah, there was lots of talk of God, and I'm not religious, but I was like, can I we call it a higher power. I'm
Mhm.
just going to call my higher power the universe, because I am spiritual. I'm
Mhm.
just not religious in the kind of conventional sense of it.
Mhm.
And I was like, my higher power is just going to be the universe. So it's
Mhm.
everything around me. It's like the chair, the computer, the
Mhm.
light, the universe, the sky,
Yeah.
the birds, the animals, all of that stuff, like
Mhm.
you, me, whatever.
Mhm.
So that was for me. So every time they mentioned that word God or whatever, but I don't think they ever did in ours. It wasn't very religious at all.
Mhm.
We always just talked about higher power. So
Mhm.
that kind of aspect really kind of was filtered out from my point of view.
Yeah.
And I know there's different ones around the world that are very religious and God centric, but I was
Mhm.
quite lucky in the fact that I was like, yeah, this is not really religious at all.
Mhm.
And I don't think it's meant to be. I think they use the word God, and it's the God of your understanding,
Mhm.
but I think that gets misinterpreted by a lot of people that are born again. When they get into sobriety, they are
Oh,
definitely kind of born again,
yeah.
and it's like, okay, that's you do you, and I'll do me, thank
Yeah.
you. But
My
and that's
first
cool, and
meeting,
if it
this
works
woman
for them,
sat
it works for
beside
them.
me, and the person that I brought with me leaned over and was like, "She doesn't want to be here because of the God thing." And I was like, "Shut up, shut up!" Like, and the girl beside me laughed and said, "You can believe in a doorknob if you want. You just need to believe in
Yeah,
something because." Addicts are
yeah,
selfish, and believing in something that's beyond you is teaching
yeah,
you to be unselfish. And when she
yeah,
explained it in that way, I was a lot more open to that idea. There's still people in some of my meetings that are like very preaching the Lord's, the Lord and Savior. And I still get really uncomfortable because I feel like I believe some things. I believe in connectivity and energies and that we're connected. And I definitely have moments where I've seen
yeah,
things in nature and been like,
exactly.
that's a sign. But
Yeah.
I have, like I still struggle with the idea of God and that aspect of it.
Well,
So
I did it militantly for the first year of my sobriety, and
mhm,
then there wasn't anything in particular that happened. It was more, we went into these little mini lockdowns, and
mhm,
we took it out into the park a few times, and we were like out there socially distanced doing our meetings, and then I was
mhm,
like, it was always drummed into me, if you don't get to a meeting, you're going to relapse. And I was like, well,
yeah,
I don't want to have to be tied to these meetings for the rest of my life. So I
yeah,
was like, okay, I'm going to start kind of moving away from them. I know they're there if I need them. And I don't get me wrong, I loved it. It was the
mhm,
best thing that could have ever happened to me, going to those
mhm,
meetings in those rooms, because
yeah,
it got me sober and it kept me sober. But then
mhm,
I had to do it for myself. So that's the other aspect of it, because I know they say, you give yourself up to your higher power and let your
mhm,
higher power get you sober and clean and all that. And that's great. But you know what? Like, looking back, it was me that did it,
mhm,
and it's you that did it for yourself. You
yeah,
got yourself sober and you're keeping yourself sober. So as much as I'm not belittling AA or any of that. I'm just saying that, for certain people, like, you've got to kind of still look at the strength within you that helped yourself get sober.
yeah,
Like, the meetings are great and they have help, but you've done it yourself. That's the first and foremost,
yeah.
you
I
know.
agree with you. I feel like whatever helps someone else, like I said, I am in no position to come from a place of judgment, but
Hmm.
I feel like what I want to do is take ownership in my behaviors and take ownership in the fact that every time I drank, it was my choice. And even
Yeah.
last night, in my meeting, a girl went on about how it's an allergy, alcohol's an allergy, and she's just accepted that she's allergic. And I just kind of felt like, okay, we don't feel the same, because I feel like you're making an excuse. Whereas there's a lot of things as humans that we can decide is poison. Like McDonald's isn't good for us. Like when I have 5 coffees a
Sugar.
day, like I feel like a crazy person.
Yeah.
So to use that as a crutch, I guess if it keeps you sober, that's great. But like you said, you got to get to the root of the problem. And I think that's why I had so many relapses.
Hmm.
It's dangerous to label yourself an alcoholic, because that can become an excuse and say, oh, well, it's because I'm an alcoholic. That's why this and that. So I do think you need to be really
Yeah.
careful about not making it your entire identity or the reason for why you are who you are, and just realizing
Hmm.
it's a part of your journey. Just like I'm someone who likes to garden and likes cats. It's another part of who I am, but I don't want it to be an
Exactly.
excuse for who I am. So.
I mean, I did use that word and addict for like a long time, and then I got to the point where I was like, do you know what? Like, I don't. That's not really who I am anymore.
Mhm.
You know that word, and it was kind of like because a lot of people I think that are trying to maybe get sober and they've not got to the rock bottom stage.
Mhm.
They're just trying to. They're maybe grey area drinker, middle of the road drinker. They're not going to see that word and think that's what I am. So that
Mhm.
might then put them off trying to get into some form of sobriety and recovery.
Yeah.
So I think there's still a massive stigma surrounding that word. And I think also the fact that it's, you know, they still have that anonymous mantra. And I get that
Mhm.
people don't want to be out. But I think the more people that come out, like yourself, like me, that are
Mhm.
outspoken saying, yeah, do you know what? I had a problem. Now I'm doing better. And
Mhm.
if you're struggling, then you need to come out as well and start helping yourself
Yeah.
and look for support.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was definitely like
Yeah.
that too, and that's why it took me so long for us to have this moment, and I'm glad that we're having it now because last year I was almost 127 days sober. But I think I started that
Yeah.
social media account and everything was new and exciting. And I was getting all these pats on the back. And it was all like the exciting world of sobriety, right? So that
Yeah.
kept me going, was just the newness of it all. Just like if I was vegetarian for the first time or discovering yoga, it was like a new thing. And that was enough to carry me through. But I didn't have the
Mm-hmm.
tools to handle the difficult emotions that were causing my episodes.
Sure.
So
Mm-hmm.
this time around, I just like I was, I think I said to you, I was starting a new job and I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling like this is still fresh and this is a different journey for me because I'm getting to the root of the problem. And I wanted to be at
Yeah.
a place that I was stable enough and sure enough of myself that I could come and speak and know that, you know what, I'm better now and this is my story. But anyone who judges me,
Exactly, because
it's
you want
like,
to be able
screw
to
you.
help people.
Like, don't judge me. I worked really
Yeah.
hard to get here. And the more I put myself out there, the more I know that it's less likely I'm going to go back to who I was because I am being so vulnerable, So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, no, I mean, I really appreciate your vulnerability and wanting to come on the
yeah.
podcast at the right time.
Mhm.
So how was the tail end of last year for you? If you want to,
Um,
if you don't
yeah,
want to talk about it, it's
it was
okay.
hard. It's funny. I was reading a book about, it's called The Body Keeps the Score. And if you've never read it, it's quite good. And it's about the science of trauma. And he
Mm-hmm.
talks about how he has one client who just has triggers the same times every year. I realized for whatever reason I was relapsing like every May and every August, and it's because, and I maybe we're gonna have to do a follow-up podcast, but there were definitely certain like events which took place at those times in my life to do
Mm-hmm.
with things in my past. And so every time May or August came around, and I think it was like easy for me in the winter to hermit and stay sober. But as soon as the weather got nice and I'm living near the beach, and then I had these like memories that were triggers, I wanted to cope
Mm-hmm.
with it with drinking again. And I just never got to the root of how to deal with that, right? I never got to the root of, okay, I'm having these awful feelings. How do I get through it without a drink? I would just literally go back to saying, a drink is going to make me not care anymore. And I've been sober long enough. The lie we all tell ourselves, I've been sober long enough. I know I can go back to
Mm-hmm.
that, but for now, a drink's going to make this feeling go away. And that was how I dealt. And that's how I always ended up relapsing. I wasn't dealing with the feelings. And so this time I had support because people knew, and I had people I could reach
Mm-hmm.
out to and not have to deal with it on my own. And I learned to walk through those feelings and know, I know it's cliche, but this too shall pass. I learned
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
tell myself, yeah, this feels crappy, but like you felt good again, like it's going to go away. And I learned to coach myself through it. And that made a huge difference for me in being able to stay sober. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate you telling us
Yeah.
that, and I know it is hard, and it's we see it a lot because I work for do part time at our addiction charity on the Isle of Man, and I think this summer or last summer was the first summer that I'd worked there,
Mhm.
and they were like, you will see a massive drop off of people coming in for support
Mhm.
because summertime is when people kind of think, yeah, you know
Mhm.
what, the sun shines out, it's warm, t-shirt weather, I can go to pub beer gardens or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying necessarily that's what kind of was triggering for you, but there is this kind of trend that people do that are kind of, they're in a program or whatever, and then they just drop off for the summer, and then it gets to September, and then they start coming back in their droves. And
Yeah.
it's quite an interesting trend to see, that you think, my gosh, we are just creatures of habit. We do have animalistic instincts. It's like summertime, it's like hunter gathering season, I don't know, mating season, whatever it is, but people tend to go back out, and that's when we see a drop off and people coming in to get support. So it's crazy. So when was the last day when's your sobriety date now, April?
October 14th. It was the day after Thanksgiving. I was home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving, I was in no condition. Like, I couldn't leave the house. I wasn't ready. And my family wanted me to go, but I was like, just give me one more day, please, because I have to know that I'm never going to drink again. And I just wasn't there yet, right? I still wanted to have one last glass of wine.
Absolutely.
Even now it's hard, and I'm just sharing this because I'm sure other people can relate. I still fantasize about drinking all of the time. It's like, it's definitely what they say, one day at a time. And people ask me like, okay, so you're never drinking again, right? And that's scary for me to think about. I still have moments where I think maybe after I get my 1-year chip, I can just drink and see if I feel different. So I still like have that brain that I fantasize about it all the time.
And that's, and well, did you know what, April? That's absolutely normal. That is not anything different. But what I can say is nearly 5.5 years sober, it does get easier, and that stuff goes away. Like that little inkling in your head that goes, you know what? Like I could have a beer. There's a lovely sunset. I'll have a glass of wine. That'll make it better. It won't make it better. And those thoughts do go away. Like, I mean, it took me maybe, like, I mean, I was going, as I say, I went to the meetings for the first year, like religiously, militantly. And then I started dropping away from it, and I was doing my own thing, and I was keeping busy. But I maybe about 2 years before those thoughts went away. And don't get me wrong, every now and then there'll be a little thought pops into my head, and it's like, oh, should we have a drink? And I'm like, what? And I'm just like, do you know what I mean? Like, I bat it away as quick as it came, because, but where you're at, it will take a little bit longer to kind of sit with it and go, like, Christ, when I was like, I mean, what are you, October, November, December, January? So like 3 months in, which is great. That's 3 months is amazing. So well done, April. But it's like still in that, sweet spot where, you're still just getting to the magic 3 months, as I call it, where you start feeling better, your skin gets better, all of those things. But your brain is still going to keep thinking, well, if I have a rough day, that's going to make me feel better. And it'll make you feel better for like 10 minutes, but in the long run, it's not going to do you any good, And it's like, we have to say, keep playing the tape forward, think about, because I remember when I moved into my cottage up here before I moved in with Jen. So I'm maybe about 9 months sober, I think. And I moved into this lovely little thatched cottage up in the hills. And my family had come around, and I was still building relationships with the family. And I moved in, and I got everything, put in it, because I didn't have much stuff. Like, I'd literally been living out in my car. So I had put everything in its nice little spot, and I sat down, and all my family had gone. And I was sat down, and I thought, I could really do with, a bottle of wine. And then I was like, play the tape forward. And I was like, well, if I went and got a bottle of wine, I was like, that wouldn't be enough. So then I would have to drink drive to go and get another one. And then I'd probably get caught. And if I get caught, then I'm losing the house, the job, my family. And I was, and like in a quick instant, all of those things just dropped away. And I was like, so what would that bottle of wine bring me? Nothing. So, and it's little things like that, little tools like that, that kind of help us out to kind of go, well, why would we want to do that?
Yeah, that's why I stopped being active on my Instagram account for a bit. I was really enjoying supporting others, but I realized every morning I was getting up and I was trying to find a photo to count my day. And I did have a cool moment today before coming on this podcast that I was like, I don't know what day it is, like how many days I've been sober. And that's like pretty liberating. And I had to look at my phone, and This is where I am a little bit like hippy dippy spiritual, is that this morning when I bought my coffee, it came to $4.44. And I was like, oh, angel number is 444. It means I'm on the right path.
Yeah,
And then my sobriety number
yeah,
today was 111 days. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And also it's
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah. And I was like, and also it's cool that like I'm not counting, it's cool that
Yeah, yeah.
it's to the
You
point that I'm
you
not obsessing about checking off another day, and I can just start to be in the flow of just living my life without that being the center of my thoughts anymore. So,
yeah. I mean, I totally get that. Like I was a day counter only because my Instagram at the beginning was I did a picture every day.
yeah.
Like it was like, and I did a little kind of,
Mhm.
whether it be just for today speak or whatever. And so from the 19th of August 2020, which is my sobriety date,
Mhm.
I thought like I can't keep doing a picture every day because it's becoming like, a bit boring.
That's
And
what
I
I
was kind of
thought.
like,
I was like, one day I do like a
I
picture of a
need to think.
sidewalk. I'm just like, this is
Yeah, well, I was like, and like this is the silly part, right?
yeah.
When I would put up a meme or something, I wouldn't get as many likes, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, but then if I did a selfie, I'd get more likes because
Mhm.
people wanted to see the real and the raw of
Yeah.
me. So I was like, but then someone said to me, why don't you do up in? Because I think I was like 470 days or something, or maybe
Mhm.
maybe 420, and they said, why don't you stop on 500 days, and then you can still continue, but you don't have to do it every day. And I was like, okay, 500 days is cool. So I counted out my days, and well, I got Google to do it, and the
Mhm.
fifth 500th day from my sobriety date ended up being the 31st of December, so New
Cool.
Year's Eve, 2021, and I was like, holy shit, that's cool. I like those numbers. So then I did stop
Yeah.
on the 31st of December, and then I think I did one on the first anyway, and I was like, sorry guys, I'm back. but
Yeah.
but actually I'm now coming up on 2000 days,
Wow,
which
that's so amazing.
weirdly weirdly is a week. It's a week today,
Cool.
and it's on my birthday.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you have fun birthday
So yeah,
plans?
just family, just
Yeah.
family, Jen and the kids, and then we might go out for a meal later on. But
Cool.
my brother and his partner and their kids are going to come over. We're going to do cake and stuff. So nothing major. But
Mm.
I'm just amazed that it's like 2000 days on my birthday. It's like I didn't plan when I was going to get sober, and that's
Yeah.
2000 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Wow,
crazy.
that's really
Um,
cool. Yeah, that was the other thing that
so
was
what are
very
your?
challenging when I got sober, and I don't know if you can speak on this, but just
Mhm.
realizing how many things you associate with drinking. Like the first time I watched Real Housewives and was like just sitting with my hands in my lap, being like, because I used to down a few glasses of wine and like heckle the TV and make my commentary, right? So I was like, this show
Yeah.
isn't that good when I'm sober. And then I was just like so anxious and to sit and watch TV and not have another activity. So that was another part of the journey that I was like, wow, like you don't realize how many things you tie to your drinking until you're not drinking. So,
Yeah. But you know what? Like one of my friends, he has like a massive big, it's like a really ornate kind of like wine glass. It's
mhm.
like a goblet maybe.
Yeah,
And he fills that up with sparkling water. I think sometimes he'll add juice into
yeah,
it or whatever, but that is his thing. He only drinks out of that. And it's not even he's drinking alcohol free stuff, but it's
yeah,
just that kind of ritual that he has of pouring it into this big glass and then he has it. He's 11 years sober, so it's not
nice.
even as if he's hankering after wine now. But it's little things like that. Like if you're going to watch Real Housewives, just get yourself like a really ornate glass. Go out and buy
Mhm.
yourself a specific glass that's never had wine or anything in it, but it's now for you for whatever, I don't know, kombucha or whatever you like
Yeah.
to drink. And just make it into like a kind of ritual to kind of do that. And then you'll be like, this is now my new thing because that's our brains have to kind of be rewired
Mhm.
into a new habit. And we're
Mhm.
so used to our old habits. If we don't replace that, and I'm not saying like get one addiction for another, I'm
Yeah.
just saying replace our brain to make our brain think about something else that we're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another buddy who's been like 5 years sober. And he said in the beginning, what was hard for him was he didn't know how to like socialize without a drink and he didn't want to cut off his
Mhm.
social life. So he knew there was this one pub that served a certain kind of beer. And he would bring the empty can of that beer and then just go in the washroom and fill it with water. And he said that alleviated. And I thought that was a really cool trick. It just alleviated. He didn't
Yeah.
want to have the conversation of his friends that were used to him being the drinking buddy, realizing he now
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, yeah.
drinking. And he was like, the funniest thing
Yeah.
is I always thought in my head that people were going to notice that I was sober all of a sudden, but nobody notices. People are selfish. He's
Yeah.
like, the only person that knows or cares is really you. And that's another stigma
Yeah.
I think we need to get around. But like, it was funny after knowing that, like being out with him, and he'd have like this can of like Molson Canadian, and I knew there was just tap water in it.
Just tap water,
Just
and it's a
tap
cheap
water.
night for him.
Yeah.
It's a cheap night for
Yeah.
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, so April, how are you? How are you feeling now? Like, how is your like? What are your kind of future plans, and how are you feeling about
Yeah.
2026?
I know it sounds so cliche, but I wake up every day grateful and excited for the future.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I see a lot of people say this on their platforms and have it go viral or what have you, but I have a life I never thought I would have, and
Mm-hmm.
that gives me the courage to keep doing this. It's the first time that I felt like excited about the future. If you told
Mm-hmm.
me, 100 days ago that I could be as happy and just feel like at peace, my life was just so chaotic. I was so used to constant trauma that became my norm, and that became where I was comfortable. And last night, I came home and it was quiet, and I felt just like really calm. And
Yeah.
I took a moment and was like, I don't think I've ever felt this calm, and like just being at home, and felt okay with it. And it was like a feeling that I really want to hold on to, So,
It's
um,
funny. It was meant to say back at the beginning when we were talking about all of those things that as humans we don't like being lonely, we don't like being at home with our thoughts and all that. We need kind of constant distraction, whether it be like our phones or the television or even having the
mhm,
radio on, and all those things are fine. But for me, my distraction was when I was feeling lonely or alone and I didn't like it, I would drink.
mhm,
And moving into that cottage was the best thing for me because like I had a TV. I bought a TV
mhm,
off Facebook Marketplace, and then within like I think a couple of weeks, I was like, "Why have I bought a TV? I don't want a TV. I'm trying to write a book." So I got rid of the TV, and if I want to watch a film, I can watch it on the laptop. But I just started learning to be at one with myself. And I know
mhm,
it's going to sound a lot woohoo and hippy dippy, but I needed to learn how to do that and be okay in my own company, not with
mhm,
distractions. And it's scary and it's daunting at the beginning. But once you learn to do that, and I'm not just talking about people in recovery, I'm talking
mhm.
about everybody needs to learn to do this because
Yeah,
so much of our lives is just constant distraction that if
yeah,
you can't just sit on your own and be okay with that, you need to then do more work to be able to do that. And it comes quite easily once you start knowing this is what you're doing. But
mhm,
people are so used to that instant gratification of, turning on the television and
mhm,
putting on some crap on TV or looking at our phones constantly. Don't get me wrong, I do look at my phone. I probably look at my phone too
yeah.
often, but I have learned to be okay in my own company. And that's important.
Yeah, it's a huge life skill for sure. And I was saying this to someone the other day, just in terms of, I'm single now, and just I've been single 2 years, and just getting back into dating. And now, even it's not even because I'm sober, but when I meet a guy who's sober, it's even more of an attraction, because I know that that's someone that's proven that they can hold out for what's right rather than doing just what feels good in the moment. And I think that carries over
Yeah.
into other things in life, like being able to have that self-reflection of like, if I say no to this, like something better in my life will occur, or I'll have something better. And that's the kind of person I think I'd want just as a partner in general, is someone who's not going to just do what's easy in the moment just because it feels good. I want people in my life that are going to have conviction, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
do the
Yeah.
thing that's going to go the distance, so to speak. So,
Well, absolutely. I mean, I was in my first, early days of recovery. I was on all of the dating sites. And I mean, we live in a tiny island over here, so it's not the best thing, because people are like, oh my God, I can't go on that because people will see me on there. And I'm like, the only people that are going to see you on there are the people that are looking for a date. Anyway, so I did
Yeah.
go out on a few kind of weird dates at the beginning, and they were lovely people. I shouldn't have called them weird dates. They were
Mhm.
lovely. They were weird for me because I wasn't ready. And it
Yeah.
took me a long time to kind of work that out. And I was like, no, again, it was the distraction thing. Like, it was
Yeah.
like, no, I don't need that. I need to work on myself first.
Mhm.
And I think, when was I? I just coming up for 3 years,
Yeah.
and I'd come off all the dating sites and all of that. And I was at like a craft market where I used to sell my photography.
Mhm.
And I met Jen, and we just kind of we kind of exchanged details. Well, I got our details later on, and we went out on a few dates,
Mhm.
and we got married in the summer there. So,
Amazing.
it's like this beautiful fairy tale story that is still happening. And I'm just like, do you know what? I'm so lucky that I decided to kind of not just wait, but like know that I wasn't ready at that point, and have the
Mhm.
foresight to know that I wasn't ready. And that I knew that, do you know what? If it doesn't happen for me, like, I was 43, I was like, if it doesn't happen for me, that's okay. I'm okay with that, because
Yeah.
I'm okay with my own company. I'm okay with my friends and family that I have. But if it happens, it
Mhm.
happens. And then it did happen. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, same
the
with me.
world's
It was
weird.
funny when I was first single, I was like, I'm lonely, I'm lonely. But now I'm like, yeah, but you were lonely when you were with someone too. Like,
Yeah,
there were
yeah.
times that I was like lonelier being with someone than I am now being alone. And I have to remind myself, because I still have those lonely moments, but I'm like, the wrong person wouldn't make this better. So,
Oh, exactly. The only thing that's going to make that better, April, is time and doing the work,
yeah.
and consistently doing the work. And you know what? Being in the program is the best thing for you in the first couple of
Mhm.
years, to just do the service, do
Mhm.
whatever's asked of you, but also look at other stuff, listen to podcasts,
Yeah.
read Quit Lit, try other avenues. Like, I was doing everything. I was doing SMART,
Mhm.
NA, AA. I was watching films, I was reading books, I was making my own little videos on YouTube, which are still there for
Yeah.
posterity, which are a bit, some of them are actually okay. I was watching the other day, and I was like, oh my God, these are going to be cringe. But it was just me in my car just talking absolute BS. But actually, some of it was like, you know what? I still believe that now. And I was like 6 months sober. So it's weird how that kind
Great.
of stuff. But I was constantly like, this is now my life.
Yeah.
And it's still a huge part of my life, but I've got other stuff going on as well. So
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
we're lucky to live in a culture where it's like cool to be sober now. Like I've met a lot of,
Yeah.
when you're in your 40s like we are, it's a really sweet age that you can have friends who are older and you can have friends that are younger. And I have younger
Yeah.
friends that
Yeah.
just don't drink. And,
Yeah.
biohacking is like a huge trend right now, good or bad.
Of
You
course
see
it is.
20-year-old girls getting Botox, and I don't know how I feel about that. But
No.
I think this generation is very self-aware about how things affect their body, and it's okay. It's cool to not drink. Like there's lots of sober options. So
Yeah.
we're lucky to live in a world where it's becoming less and less common and there's less pressure. So,
Well, they can Google it. I mean, I've got a 15-year-old and 13-year-old and a
mhm,
9-year-old, but the 15-year-old, and the 13-year-old, they're probably
mhm,
thinking like, they probably got friends that have been drunk and all that. But
mhm,
the thing with young people is they can Google it on their phones, and if they
mhm,
Google it and go, shit, alcohol's bad for me, like really bad for me. Why am I going to do that?
mhm,
Because they're not smoking. I mean, a
mhm.
lot of them are vaping now, but
Yeah.
it's they know. We didn't know. We weren't told,
Mhm.
and I think that's the difference. It's
Yeah.
um, April, do you regret getting sober?
No, I think it's really connected me to the right people.
Yeah.
I think, like I said before, the closeness that I always craved, because it's like they say the opposite of addiction is connection. And I think I just
Hmm.
really was that shy girl that was dorky and awkward, just wanted to be cool. And alcohol seemed like the solution in the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, the closeness I always wanted that I thought alcohol gave me, sobriety has given me. And that's been the biggest
Yeah.
gift. And I was saying in my meeting last night, me in the past, would have gotten in like maybe a not sober argument with a family member or a partner, and the next day like waking up and not being certain of if it was my fault or whatever. Now if I have
Yeah.
conflict, not only do I handle it calmly, but the next day I can like think back and be like, no, I was right, like I remember what I said. So
Yeah.
even in those small
Yeah.
moments, it just is so much more worth it, like you said, than a moment on the lips.
It's
So
rewarding.
yeah.
It's rewarding.
Yeah.
It's rewarding to be present and remember like
Mhm.
all of the things that we've done and said and you know and not just the bad things but the good things that we've
Yeah.
said to people and gone, oh, do you know what? I said a really lovely thing to someone the other day and that was cool. You know, it's you
Yeah.
know, because I think the more we're sober and the
Mhm.
more we strive to be better people, because that's what we're trying to do, the more
Mhm.
we can have effect on our fellow humans. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
know that sounds a bit
Yeah,
cheesy and cringy, but it's true.
I think looking back, I just was never really sure who April was, you know? So I would cling to the
Yeah.
identities that served me, whether it was being the cool snowboarder, or the nightclub promoter, or this person's girlfriend. And this journey, I can tell you, like, with certainty that I know who I am on my own, even if I didn't have a job or didn't have a partner or all the things that I thought made me whole. And that was another gift that sobriety gave me, was to have to get to know myself. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's first and foremost. That's the greatest part of the journey is
Yeah.
learning to know who we're really supposed to be.
Hmm.
April, it's been absolute
Yeah.
pleasure having you on the podcast and getting to know you. And
Yeah.
finally, we get to kind of chat after we've been, you know, been trying to do this since July. But I understand
Yeah.
the reasons for it, and I think
Yeah.
you're completely, you know, right in doing that. But
Yeah.
we appreciate your sobriety and we appreciate your journey. So thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you. And I have a confession to make. I didn't really watch any of your interviews because I knew I was going to maybe do this, and I didn't want
Mhm.
other people's episodes to make me overthink how this was going to go. I just wanted to be like talking to a friend who's also sober and feeling really organic. And I felt like this has been that. So I thank you for giving me your time and being able to share this moment.
Well, I appreciate your honesty because I do a very similar thing. If I'm going on a podcast, I don't, unless it's one that I've already listened to, I won't listen to it because I don't want to know the format. I just want it to
Yeah.
be fresh and
Yeah.
like, you know, wait for the questions and all that.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, now you can go and listen to all the rest of them.
Oh, now I'm just going to be cyber stalking you.
You're going to be binging it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you, April, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Mhm.
Cheers.
Yeah, thank
Take
you.
care. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
bye.
Hey guys, like we've not finished the episode yet. Is everyone thinking that you know they've heard about how April was doing and doing really well? And I was trying to get in touch with April just before dropping the episode, and it was quite difficult to get in touch with her. Then I started noticing on her Instagram that like her day count was going up, but it had gone down significantly since you know we spoke. I mean, we spoke back last November,
Yeah.
and then I got in touch with April and I was like, yeah, wow, like she'd you know unfortunately had a relapse and some
Yeah.
quite nasty things happened. So yeah, I mean, April, take it away and tell us what happened since we spoke in November, really. So you were doing well when we spoke. You know, you were kind of
Yeah.
full of the joys of sobriety, and then obviously, yeah, take it from there.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's been a lot. I'm gonna drink coffee while we talk because
Of
it's
course, absolutely,
7:30 here
yeah,
in Canada.
yeah.
So yeah, so around February, I started to get the same uncomfortable feelings that I've gotten in previous relapses. And it was the longest that I'd been sober since I was 19 years old. So I was really proud of myself. I was making good strides, but I hit that wall, as they kind of talk about in AA, where the pink cloud dissipates or what have you.
Mhm.
And sobriety did become a bit routine and a bit, I guess you could say, normal. My day to day was pretty much the same, which now I see in some ways is good. But when you're
Mhm.
used to a lot of chaos and trauma, sometimes that feels really foreign when you get in that flow. And I told myself the lie that we all tell ourselves, that it's been long enough and I can just have a drink and go back.
Yeah.
I now know that's not the case for me. I mean, everyone's different, but Yeah, it was a holiday weekend here, and I had tickets to see like a DJ, and I'd gone to shows many times before. I don't find being around people who drink like really tempts me. It's when I'm alone and get in my head that I really want to drink to ease my mind. And that night, it was like Valentine's Day weekend, and my friend canceled at the last minute, and I was feeling really bummed. And I was like, I'm just gonna have some wine and give myself that liquid courage and go out by myself. So I had a bottle of wine here, and then when I went to the show, I ran into an old friend, and they didn't know I'd ever been sober, and they offered to buy rounds, and it just went on from there. Went into a long weekend, and then by the time Monday came, I just had that dreaded anxiety going to work. Yeah, that day at work, I couldn't do my work. I was anxious. All I could think about was getting home and having more wine, and it just spiraled from there, like back into, gosh, it was like when I started this journey, it was really sad because it felt like it erased everything that had happened, and I was just back where I started. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's that complacency, isn't it? And that's
Mhm.
what got me multiple times in the past before
Mhm.
I got sober this time. And it's like this addictive drug or whatever tells us, oh, you'll be fine, these little, and I don't know whether it's so much the drug, because I've been doing a lot of research, and it's interesting what you said there about that Monday, trying to get through that horrendous day, and all you can focus on is getting a bottle of wine because that's going to make you feel better. And it's
Yeah.
those, I don't know if you've read William Porter. He's actually coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks. He wrote Alcohol Explained. So if you haven't read that, April, I would suggest reading it, because it blew my. People have been telling me to read it since 2020 when I got sober, and I only read
Mhm.
it. I think I read it just the tail end of last year, and I've since read it twice, because it's just one of the three big books that I put
Mhm.
on the end of my podcast. The other being Annie Grace's This Naked Mind, and James Fry, A Million Little Pieces. So those are the three that I put
Yeah.
on the bottom. But Alcohol Explained. So what William explains is, he says that when there's two types of people. Like, I've spoken to my wife Jen about this, and she could
Mhm.
never even fathom an inkling of having a drink the next day when she's feeling rough. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
hair of the dog, and I did it from an early age. It opens when you have a drink, when you're feeling rough, and it doesn't even have to be the morning after. It can be like you've got through this horrendous day at work or
Mhm.
whatever, and you know that you're going to get this bottle of wine or this beer or whatever, and it's going to make you feel better. You open up these neural pathways in your brain that then that's like the slowest, the easiest path of less resistance, because it knows this is the cure to how I'm feeling right now. And the more we do that, the more it just kind of compounds that thought that as soon as we know
Mhm.
we're going to have this drink later and it's going to make us feel better, and it's like, and it's a
Yeah.
lie anyway, because it's only making us feel better for like 20 minutes, if that, like maybe 10 minutes, and then it's like we're stuck in that rut again. And that's the thing, like, those neural pathways are always going to be there. Like, if I
Mhm.
don't drink for like 40 years and I have a drink, when I'm 80 or whatever, they're still going to be there. So all we have to not do is just not have that drink. And because this addiction, this alcohol, what we've done is put it in our brains, so it's always going to be there. And that's the sad part. So it's interesting that you were saying, it's sad to hear that you were that Monday and you were like, this is the only thing that I can think of making me feel better. And it's crazy, isn't it? So I
Yeah.
guess you had wine that night then, yeah, on the Monday.
Yeah, and then I just continued, and then my tolerance got higher, and I needed to drink more, and then it got to the weekend again,
Yeah.
and more people from my past who drink were connecting with me, and so I let those people in because it's so much easier to hang out with people that won't judge you, that are at your level, so to speak, than to come to like the friendships that were healthy that I created that I knew would be concerned that
Yeah.
I'd fallen back into a bad place.
Can I
But
just ask, how did these people that you kind of maybe not spoken to for a while, how did they start kind of hovering around you again? Had the word
I
got
don't
out, kind of
know.
thing?
I feel like I like a lot of people that go through this, I have been on like a spiritual path for a while, and I read this book called The
Yeah.
Universe Has Your Back. And one
Yeah.
chapter I read talks about how The same lessons will return to your life to test you to see if you are ready to move past that and level up to something better, or if
Hmm.
you will fall back into somewhere that's comfortable. And looking back, I truly believe that that was the moment I was being tested. Like, I've learned a lot about lapse versus relapse, and I could have just had that weekend and been like, oh, I screwed up, like, but I value my life. I can get back on track. But instead I
Yeah,
chose
yeah,
to do what was comfortable, right? I was
yeah.
just like, I I hope I'm allowed to swear on this podcast, but I did like a meeting the other day, a SMART meeting, and the
Hmm.
instructor's really good. And he was like, you go right to the fuck it mentality, right? So that's where my mind
Yeah.
went. And that's where it was comfortable. It was just like, well, I've already screwed up. So who cares one more day? But that mentality
Well,
carried on too long. So,
that's it. That's what I was saying. It's that path of least resistance. We think
mhm,
in our heads, like when I was back, when I was kind of, drinking, non-drinking, drinking, relapsing, whatever, it just seemed so hard to get into. Whenever I was sober for like a couple of weeks or even a month, it was so
mhm,
painful and so hard. And I thought that what I was doing before was easier. The drinking, the
mhm.
lying, the stealing, the cheating, all of that stuff. I thought it was easier. And it's like it's totally not. But our brain again lies to us and
Oh,
says,
yeah.
no, no, this is the easier path. Yeah. It's
Yeah, I
absolutely
think
crazy.
I think as well, I've had like a seizure once in the past, a couple years ago, and
Hmm.
I live alone. So it just like added to the excuse pile in my brain that I kept telling myself, well, like, what if I stop and I live alone and I have a seizure? But the reality is there's like a clinic 3 blocks away from me that I could have gone to if that was my fear. I was
Yeah.
just drinking too much to find the motivation to get there. But yeah, just reflecting on my own lessons, I'm like, dude, I could have just gone down the street and done like a hospital detox and like gotten back
Yeah.
on track. But
But
I
isn't it
just went
weird
the
that we're
direction of the fuck it mentality and was like, I've already gone this far. What's one more day? And I just went down that path instead. So yeah.
yeah. But isn't it funny that our brain, not funny, it's tragic that our brain's telling
Mhm.
us like, let's continue drinking so that we don't have a seizure. And it's like,
Yeah.
rather than getting ourselves detoxed, getting ourselves away from that potentially seizing point, we're just
Hmm.
like, no, I'll just continue drinking because that's safer. It's
Yeah.
not though, is it? Like the
Yeah.
better solution is to get yourself off it, get yourself clean and sober, and
Yeah.
then the chance of you having a seizure is almost minimal again. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why they say every relapse is worse. I've now had 4 relapses in 2 years.
Mhm.
And the first time you're like, I'm going to get back on track and you have that motivation. But once you've gone through like the pain and suffering of withdrawals, the next time you relapse and you know what you need to do, you already know what you're going to have to go through. And so building that up in your mind, you're just like, oh, it's going to be so much work. It's going to be restless, sleepless nights. It's going to be sweating. It's going to be shaking. And knowing what you're going to have to go through makes it harder
Yeah.
and harder every single time for sure. So,
Oh, without a doubt. And but also that whole like day counting, and I've always been a day counter. I still am. I don't have
mhm,
it like marked on a calendar. I've got an app that does it. Do you know what I mean? But I
yeah,
still day count, and it must
yeah.
be so disheartening to go from like how do you remember how many days you were on before your
I was
relapse?
almost 5 months. And it's funny
Yeah.
that you bring that up because I have a few AA meetings I go to. I have done posts before that there's still things I'm navigating with AA, but I do like the fellowship and the connection. And I've met
Of course.
people that, you know, um, take what they need and leave the rest that I can relate to.
Hmm.
And I'm about 2 months now, and a friend of mine
Yeah.
was like, "You should get your 2 month chip. You're so healthy now. You have your career lined up. You're doing all these amazing things. You should celebrate it." But I just felt like a phony. I felt really weird because I was like, "But I was already at 5 months, and now I'm back at two, and people in my meeting know this, and I just feel like a poser now." So I do have to pull myself out of a slump every day and be like, but these are the things you have achieved and this is what you've learned. But there's still
Yeah.
that little devil inside that's like, yeah, but you are back at square one, you loser. Like, so
And again, it's our brain playing tricks on us because
yeah.
you know what? If you go and which I do hope you do go and get your new 2-month chip, it's a new one, it's
Yeah.
a fresh one, and this is the one
Mhm.
is going to count. You know, this is, forget the other
Mhm.
one. It's gone. It's done. This is your
Yeah.
new one, and you're going to get your 2 months. You're going to get your 6 months. You're going to get your, year, and that's
Yeah.
what matters. Forget what's
Yeah.
happened. That's the problem with day counting, because, let's say I went out and have a drink tomorrow. I would have to reset my count, because that's how
Mhm.
kind of militant I am on my sobriety now. And
Mhm.
yeah, it would be absolutely heartbreaking and tragic. But I think the danger of day counting as well is like what you're saying, like when people day count and it's like, oh my God, well, what's the point now? Because I've messed up and I've had,
Mhm.
like 200 days or whatever it was. It's like, that's gone
Mhm.
now and I'm starting at zero. Doesn't matter. Do you know
Yeah.
what? Like, time is fast and it goes past before you know it. And
Yeah.
before you know it, you're going to be, I mean, I can't believe like you're on 2 months again. I mean, I'm not saying I can't believe it. I just can't
Yeah.
believe how quickly that has gone. And
Yeah.
you've got 2 months. 2 months is amazing. And 3 months is
Thank
where the
you.
kind of magic happens. So you're coming up
Yeah.
on that. So yeah. So how
Yeah.
was it? Like when you were going through that first week of, after the weekend and then the Monday and then starting to build your tolerance up again, what was kind of going
Mhm.
through your head? Were you like, I know I need to get off this, or were you just like, fuck it, as you said, push the fuck it button?
I think Monday and Tuesday I was like kind of like fuck it, but it was unfortunate because the people I work with noticed a change in my energy and
Hmm.
even mentioned like you seem like not yourself this week.
Yeah.
So that made me self-aware and self-conscious, but I was just caught back in the loop, and every night I would go home and be like, well, I can just have this wine and then get on track tomorrow. But then tomorrow would come and I would just feel awful. And so I'd make deals with myself like you do with any addiction, where I was like, okay, well, it's Wednesday. I can have wine Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it's the weekend and I can get through it. But then the weekend would come and I'd be like, oh, I have like 3 whole days off to get my crap together. And you're just caught, right? Like you're just caught in that
Yeah.
cycle of constantly bargaining with yourself, because it's easier to like go a block up the street and reach for the bottle than do the hard work sometimes. And
Of course it is.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because again, that is gonna make you feel better in that moment.
mhm,
You're not thinking about like the long term, like how am I going to feel on Monday? No, because you've like
mhm,
I've made it through a whole week of feeling like shit and people
yeah,
giving me grief at work, like my energy's off or this and that. And you
mhm,
know you're feeling like that, but you're like, oh,
mhm,
I've got 3 days now where I can just chill,
yeah,
drink,
mhm,
and it's lying to you. It's telling you you're going to feel better after this. I'm sure
yeah.
you weren't by Monday again.
Oh yeah, no, I was trapped. I was stuck, and I don't know. It's funny. I was talking to a friend the other day, and as I said, I don't compare myself to anyone else's journey, but I have
Hmm.
to be honest with myself that I definitely have alcohol dependency or whatever you want to call it, because most people can have a glass of wine or a beer or whatever. But for me,
Yeah.
my brain thinks, what's the point? If I'm not going to have a buzz or get wasted, like, why am I going to have just one? I'd rather have an ice cream cone. And that's
Yeah.
my brain. Like, and I know that now. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm the same. Like I did well for the first year. I didn't touch alcohol-free stuff, and then I was like, yeah, I'll have a zero Guinness when I'm out or this and that.
Mhm.
But then eventually, I was like, why am I even bothering? Not just because
Yeah.
I don't want to pay the alcohol companies because they're the ones that are benefiting from me buying it.
Mhm.
I was like, but I didn't drink for the flavor of it. I drank to get blasted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I'm just drinking this stuff I might as well have a fruit juice or something that's good for me. Something
Yeah.
that's like benefiting my health. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, well, we'll get into that in a bit. So
Mhm.
how long did this kind of go on for, and what kind of became the crunch of what
Um,
finally
I would say
happened
two
there?
or 3 weeks, and around
Yeah.
then, people who cared about me started to get concerned because they were seeing the usual patterns where they were texting me and I wasn't replying.
Yeah.
I wasn't posting on social media, like you said, because I was either hungover or not sober, and I didn't want to like put myself out there that I was perhaps texting gobbledygook to people or causing more
Well,
concern.
We become isolated, don't we?
Yeah, and I just kept telling myself I could get back on track and no one needs to know and I can pull myself together, but I just wasn't doing that. And as I said, around that time, I started to attract people from my past. Just people in the neighborhood. Like, it's nice out, Vancouver summer, and there's like the usual folk that are like sitting at a park drinking or whatever. And
Hmm.
I know the people and places that make me feel comfortable, unfortunately. So I started hanging around people who were also drinking daily, like sitting on a park bench, enjoying the sunshine. And then it's that feeling of, as they say, the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And my
Yeah.
biggest trigger is loneliness. And that night that I relapsed, I was definitely feeling lonely. My friend had canceled. It was Valentine's Day, like all these things. And so that just fueled my alcoholic brain more, that now I was feeling accepted and I was connecting with people who didn't judge me, people who were like, here, have a beer. Like, and I was like, oh, these people are so giving and kind, and they understand my pain and they understand my addiction. And that feeling of feeling connected and understood, just, I was off to the races. Like,
Yeah.
it was the same as when I relapsed last August, and just back with the same crowd and feeling accepted and feeling belonging. And it just, then I was in it. I was thick in it. So
Well, it's comfortable, isn't it? In a way, in a
Mhm.
weird way, it's comfortable until it's, well, it's not when you're at home and you're like, oh my God, I need another drink. But when you're
Yeah.
actually out in that situation, they're all
Mhm.
accepting you. There's no judgment, there's no hassle. And it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, but it's not what the life is that you want, obviously, Some people might be
Yeah.
happy with that, but you clearly don't, because you've been trying to get sober and getting sober for so long. It's like
Yeah.
this is not. But again, we get stuck in it, like you're saying, you're stuck in that rut, and it is
Mhm.
comfortable. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, where did it go from there then, April?
So from there, I started hanging back with the wrong crowd. And one particular day, I can't get into all of it, but one
Sure,
particular
yeah, yeah,
day, people were a little bit too inebriated and they got physical with me, a couple. I can't talk about it too much because there's still legal
sure.
things around
Oh
it.
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they were physical towards me, and it caused me to end up in the hospital.
Wow.
It was pretty nuts. It's funny, when I hesitated to share that I was in the hospital because I didn't want people to think, I mean, not that it matters. I always want to be honest through my Instagram in case it inspires someone else to be vulnerable and grow. But I was like, oh, if I post this stuff in the hospital, everyone's going to think I had like liver failure from drinking or something. I mean, I will say, indirectly reflecting, if I hadn't been drinking, I wouldn't be hanging out with those people, but it did result in them being physical towards me, and I ended up in the hospital because of internal damage.
Yeah.
Um, so that
So
was
it
really
so
life
it is linked in
changing.
a way. I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
it's not like you've, and this is the sad thing, like when people
Mhm.
think, oh my God, they're in hospital because they've been drinking too much and liver
Yeah.
damage. It's like the
Yeah.
blame is completely on you, not because
Mhm.
society is making it easy for you to drink and escape
Mhm.
from reality, but that's kind of where it is actually at. But people have this
Yeah.
tendency to go, oh my God, look at April, she's done it again, she's in
Yeah.
hospital,
Yeah.
and it's like, nah, man, like this
Yeah.
is April's the last person to kind of
Yeah.
blame at this point. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
poured the drink down her throat, but
Yeah.
it's an addictive drug. And yeah.
Mhm.
And so when you messaged and said you were in hospital, well, I think I saw it and I messaged you and it was like, oh my
Mhm.
God, like this
Yeah.
happened. But, and I know you don't want to go into that, but
Yeah.
like, how long were you were in for quite a while, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in the hospital for 42 days because they had
Yeah.
to do multiple surgeries. They removed some tissue in my stomach, and the first time they did it, the incision wasn't healing properly, so they had to reopen it and do it again. So I ended up being in the hospital for 42 days, but I'm someone that I guess I kind of deal with life's curveballs with a bit of dark humor. And I
Hmm.
said to a friend, I was like, if there is a God or a higher power or whatever, I feel like I was going down such a bad path that the higher power was like, how can we put this girl on a leash? Let's throw her in the hospital for 42 days and maybe she'll finally learn something. And it did give me such an appreciation for the things that I had in my life, because
Yeah.
I got laid off from work because I was under 3 months probation and I'd been away too long. So suddenly I was jobless again after this career I'd really worked for.
Yeah.
And I couldn't eat food or drink water for the first 2 weeks. Like, there were points I was so thirsty and my lips were so dry, but because I had a breathing tube in my throat, they had to do everything through an IV. I remember one day looking over and the nurse had left a bottle of water on the counter, and I was like, how do I crawl out of bed and just have a sip? So and just
It's
missing my
almost like she's put it
cats.
there to tease you with it. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Because she put it in the drip bag and then just left some on the counter, and that's like all I could think about was how like one sip of water would be so good
Yeah.
because my lips were so dry. And then on the flip side, just how many people came and supported me. And mostly the beautiful thing was mostly people I knew through AA or what have you, because they
Yeah.
understood what I'd gone through. And
Yeah.
yeah, so it was such a blessing to have people visit me every day without judgment and just wanting to see me heal. So
Well,
yeah.
this is the power of connection, and it's funny,
Hmm.
not funny again, but like when you're in it and you feeling so lonely, and as you said, that's a trigger, and it's like,
Hmm.
oh my God, there's no one around me. Yeah, there is. There's people all around you. You know,
Yeah,
like I apologize that I didn't check in with you sooner
it's okay.
than I should have done, but you know, it's like in hindsight, there's people everywhere, and it's like
Hmm.
this is the connection of sobriety, because I'm sure any of the people that you were
Yeah.
hanging about with, the wrong people, weren't anywhere to be seen when you went in hospital. But it's
Oh yeah. It's funny because I've seen a couple of those people around just walking out, and now that
mhm.
I'm back on track, there's this like, oh, you're not drinking like I am, like, you know what I mean? So
Oh,
I
so they're
almost
feeling a bit of shame then, yeah, yeah,
yeah, like, oh,
yeah,
she's not saying I think this about myself, but she's up here now. Like, don't talk to her. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
She
misery
thinks
does
she's
love
above us.
company. Yeah,
Yeah,
misery does love company. And there's
yeah.
still a few people, like a few old timers that are like, oh, she's doing really well. Don't fuck with
Don't
that.
mess with
But
it.
yeah,
Which is good. But
yeah.
it's interesting what you said as well, because I remember when I was at my lowest ebb, and I was just like, I was phoning up AA to try and make some kind of connection, but I was remember thinking in my head, like, I've still got to do the work here. Like, I've still
Mhm.
got to go to these meetings, and I literally wanted almost like I didn't have any suicidal thoughts or anything like that, but I honestly wanted to just maybe get, I don't know, hit by a bus and end up in hospital, like in a, and I know these are really dark thoughts, but like end up like in a coma for like a month or so, so that my
Mhm.
sobriety would then, you know, I wouldn't have to do it, and then I would suddenly wake up and it'd be like, oh, I've got 2 months
Mhm.
sober. Was you kind of, I know you didn't go in a coma, but you were kind of like taken away from the situation, and you could not physically, I mean, I'm sure you could have checked
Yeah.
yourself out. That would have been
Well,
silly.
and I can
But
understand that because last August was a really difficult. It was the first time a relapse was really dark for me. I was going through a really difficult breakup, and I stayed in my friend's two-bedroom, two-bathroom penthouse. And you'd think that would be glamorous, but it felt like a little too much space for me by myself. And I was
yeah.
by myself, alone with my thoughts, and was drinking a lot then. And
Mhm.
I do remember, like, people ask me, have you ever had suicidal thoughts? And I haven't. I think that life is beautiful. But in
Yeah.
that moment, I did think, I wish I could just take a pill where I would fall asleep and wake up happy. I remember thinking
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
kind of thoughts, like, I wish I could skip past this and get to the part where it's good again, because this is excruciatingly slow. So yeah, I can definitely relate to what you said about feeling those feelings for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like, what, when you were, on what day did you get kind of discharged from the hospital? How many days sober were you when you got
It
discharged?
hasn't been that long, actually. I was released May 3rd, so
Okay.
just pretty
A couple of
much
weeks
2
ago.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the first few days were really hard because
Yeah.
my mobility was still restricted. I had a walker because I had stitches across my stomach. I had to walk with a hunch. And the first day I went out with my walker, people just saw it as an invitation to make conversation. And older people, especially, would stop me and say, "You're really young. Why do you have a walker?" And I joked to my
Oh.
friends that I should be like, "Cancer," and make it awkward. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I was like, I hate this walker. Like, it just makes me feel like an old lady, and I'm very stubborn that way. So after that, I was like, I'm not using the walker. I'll just go for 5 short walks a day and rehabilitate. But yeah, I had
Yeah.
fantasized so much when I was in the hospital about being home, and then when I was home, I was like, oh my God, I'm home. But now I'm thinking of all the mistakes I made, and in the past, I'd go to yoga and dance and walk the seawall and all these things to occupy myself. And this time
Hmm.
I didn't have that option. My mobility was restricted. I had to sit with my feelings. I had to process things and do it on my own with no hospital visitors and no nurses coming in. So that
Exactly.
was,
There's the buzz of the
yeah,
hospital. There's people around like 24/7, even if it's
yeah,
not like people it's just there's people about. And then to suddenly be back home. So
yeah,
how was that? I mean, what were the thoughts like? Because obviously I'm sure there was thoughts of, oh, I could just go and have a drink, or were you completely
yeah.
free from that?
Yeah, I definitely did have those thoughts of like I could go have a drink, but I knew the way people rallied around me this time. I just kept thinking that this is bigger than me and the people that love me, like my
Yeah.
family flew out to be with me because they were so concerned. And I was like, this is it. Like I'm not gonna get this again. Like if I'm
Yeah.
drinking a couple weeks later, like no one people are gonna give up on me. And I
Yeah.
can't risk that, because my biggest trigger is loneliness and I can't lose that support, especially in such an early stage. So,
I think that was similar for me when I finally did get sober. I was like,
mhm,
I'm gonna go and do everything and anything, do the meetings, read the quitlet, watch YouTube, because I was
mhm,
like, there's no way my family are gonna put up with this anymore. They'd put up with so much and
mhm,
so much of me just kind of throwing shit back in their face, going,
mhm,
like not purposefully, but like because I was drinking, it was almost like, nah, fuck
mhm.
you, I don't need you, and I didn't want to keep doing that, so I was like, I
Yeah,
have to do it this time because
yeah.
there's really no alternative. Well, there is an alternative, but it's a dark, dark place, and I didn't
Mhm.
really fancy that. I'd pushed it as far as I could. I think that's kind of what I'd done, and I
Oh,
didn't,
yeah.
and I'd been at so many rock bottoms, which sounds like you've had, and
Mhm.
I was just done as well. I was tired of it, and I was like, I don't know if I can do another, recovery again. Like I think this was my
Yeah,
last recovery, and I'm
yeah.
glad that I kind of saw that, saw the light, because I could easily
Mhm.
relapse again, but I don't know if I've got another recovery in me, and that's the goal. It's not like anyone can relapse, but it's fighting back from it, coming back from it, which obviously you're doing an amazing job about it. And
Yeah.
so how
Yeah,
is
thank
life
you.
now? I mean, you said you've been back 2 weeks. You said the week previous was a bit crappy. Like what was, did you go to meetings every day, or how many were you doing? And
Yeah, I did. There's certain ones that I knew that I really like. I like the people, and it was hard the first couple meetings because people were like, people know they're like, "Oh, we haven't seen you in like 2 months," and
yeah,
it's like, how much detail do I want to give? Do I want to tell these people like, "Oh yeah, I was in the hospital for almost 2 months," and then it's like gonna go into why, and then, but
yeah,
most people were just welcoming and we're like, we don't care what happened. We're just happy to see you back and in the room. And that's what reminded me of why I really appreciate AA.
hmm,
And disclaimer, I know AA is not for everyone. I follow a lot of people that are like doing it on their own, and I think that's amazing. But for me, as I said, my trigger is loneliness. So I need to feel that connection in my day-to-day life with people who understand me.
yeah,
Um, One thing that was really interesting in a meeting I went to yesterday was similar to my hospital experience. Someone brought up how it's really challenging when you're in a treatment center or rehab because it's kind of like a safety blanket and it gives you some tools, but it's not reality where you really have to practice what you've learned. And that was
hmm,
kind of the transition for me being in the hospital, having routine, having like the nurse come at 8 a.m. and 7 p.m., I had a lot of really heavy pain meds and sleep meds that I didn't have access to once I got out.
hmm.
So having to navigate real life with not drinking was a switch for sure. And I'm bringing that up because I'm sure there's a lot of people that do go to treatment, and that it's like if someone goes to jail and they're thrown in the real world, it's a huge reality check that first bit of time when you're no longer in a system, I guess.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think, like you, I mean, I did the fellowship for the first year, and I was in NA
Mhm.
rather than AA, but I did a bit of both. And it was, I know it's not for everyone, but it did give
Mhm.
me that grounding, those tools, that community,
Mhm.
that tribe. And yeah, like to go from that and then into nothing, it was a huge transition because I did it on purpose.
Mhm.
I did it my own,
Yeah.
but I was like, as soon as I wasn't going to the meetings anymore, I was like, wow, this is a bit of a shocker. And it is difficult, but likes of you can do it. I've done it, and
Yeah.
people can do it. They've just got to sit
Mhm.
with it. And I know it's easier said than done, but actually, what, cravings, and once you're past that physical withdrawal and physical
Mhm.
dependency, all these cravings are as thoughts. And if you can
Mhm.
sit with them and distract them and then move forward from it, they go away. I
Yeah.
think they take like 20 minutes and they're gone. And then, but it's getting back into reality. And you said you've had a really good week this week then. So what's been happening?
Yeah. So, I got a new career lined up and it actually is
Cool.
much better income than my previous role. So, like I said, a higher power, spirituality. I feel like the further you fall, the higher you climb sometimes, and I'm definitely feeling that with me. I fostered really good connections with people who understand me. So I have a lot more quality than quantity relationships. I have a new job I'm excited about. I'm feeling like really, really healthy. I got my stitches out the other day, which was huge because the stitches were pulling a bit and really limiting my mobility. So
Right.
yesterday was the first day I was able to like walk along the ocean and have like a really nice long walk. And like I
Yeah.
said, all the things that were taken from me because of my maybe not so great choices are slowly coming back into my life. And they're
Hmm.
trickling back in a way that I now appreciate those things. Like when I relapsed, I had my cats, I had amazing friendships, I had all these social plans lined up that I was excited about. I had a career, I had a roof over my head, but I'd been used to that being my normal so long that I was taking it for granted. And now, like
Yeah.
having those things return to my life, I don't take it for granted at this point. So,
Yeah, no, that's amazing and well done on 2 months now.
thank you.
April is it's
Yeah.
just it, and you're gonna have some hard days, but you're gonna have some
Mhm.
amazing days, definitely more and outweighing the bad days. And as
Yeah.
long as you keep you kind of an even keel, but like the universe is conspiring, so to go from that to then having a
Mhm.
hopefully better career kind of job
Mhm.
prospect lined up, that's
Yeah.
just amazing. So yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you kind of see things going from now then? What have you got in place, and what is the future holding for you?
I mean, I just want to really focus on continuing to foster healthy relationships.
Yeah.
I have really amazing friends that really support my sobriety. So this afternoon, I'm meeting a friend who we're having like a picnic and just like, really good sober activities. It's supposed to be really sunny today.
Yeah.
I'm slowly getting back into yoga, more movement, just things that make me happy and just excited about this new role that I'm taking on next week.
Oh wow, cool.
So
Yeah.
just health, career, relationships, and just being grateful for those things and continuing to foster an online community such as you're doing. I had a video call with someone who'd been following me from the beginning this week. We actually talked about how when I started my account, I didn't really want to show my face
Yeah.
and I
With
created
Sally
Sally
Sober, isn't it?
Sober, right? Because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
had a
yeah.
nice ring to it. And I saw a lot of people in the community that were either like really dismal, like alcohol is poison, I never want to see it again, statistics. Or I saw like really far the other way. So I was like, maybe I could just do something humorous and be this like character Sally Sober. And this girl that I had a video call with, she's like, yeah, I saw the shift. And what it was I finally did a post once I was over 3 months with a job. And it was the most likes and responses I'd gotten. And it was my mom who said, I really like when you're just authentic and you're just you,
Yeah.
instead of being something else like I see a lot of online. So then it went that direction and I was Sally, but April. So,
Yeah, yeah, and I love that, and there's nothing wrong with having a mix of the two because,
yeah.
I think people do, and sometimes it's easier to put like an avatar in front of us because we don't want to kind of be as open and like this is like bare bones, this is who I am type thing. But
Yeah.
then some people do resonate to that. So whatever you do, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. And
Yeah.
you know what, April, just please give me a shout, or like just anything you're feeling or struggling with or anything, like, just reach out to me, reach out to millions of the other people that are on Instagram, because we've all got your back, and that's all we want to do, is see you kind of succeed and stay sober. So, like, I do appreciate you coming back on to kind of tell us a little bit more. Yeah. Thank you, April. What a two-part journey that was. And I think what strikes me most about April's story is that she didn't come from chaos. Good family, scholarship, great career, 5 years snowboarding in Whistler. From the outside, there was obviously nothing wrong, and that should have led to where it went. And that's the point, isn't it? Alcohol doesn't discriminate. It doesn't need a broken home or a traumatic past. It just needs loneliness, a bottle of wine and nothing else to do. The thing she said that I keep coming back to is that she finally feels calm at home, alone, quiet, and okay with it. For someone whose biggest trigger has always been loneliness, that is everything. That is where the whole journey starts, right there. April, thank you so much for coming on. You're an absolute star for coming back, and not explaining yourself, but just us giving you the platform to tell us a little bit more about the updates and what's happening. And I think that it sounds from listening to you that is, touch wood, your last relapse, because something's changed, something's stirred inside you, and I just appreciate you being so raw and honest about it. I know it took a lot, and I know there will be people listening to this today who are at their own version of day one or day 111 or somewhere in between, and I know your story is going to help them. If this episode is hit close to home, please reach out to April, to me, to anyone in the community. You're never as alone as you think you are. As always, guys, listen for the similarities. Take care, stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. I'll see you next week for the final episode of the season, and it's a biggie, guys. So thanks for staying with us up to this point in the year, and we're going to have a little break after next week's episode, but until then, take care. Cheers, guys. Love you all. Peace.